Hey everyone, welcome to Smash Trivia. I'm your host, Smash Trivia John. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram by searching Smash Trivia. Follow everything happening with me. I'll be the one with the big old green head in the profile picture. I'm so excited to get into this. This is the Gamma Analysis. Basically, in this series, I review everything Hulk, all the movies and TV shows, and maybe at some point I could get into comics, but that's a while off. Hope you enjoy Smash Trivia Presents the Gamma Analysis. I want to ask everyone listening if they could please do something for me. Please share the hell out of this podcast with all your friends because I really want to get the Gamma Analysis big enough that by the time She-Hulk comes out, maybe I could become press and get the first episode early or be invited to premiere or even just get one of the press goodie bags. For this episode, I'm going to review a film that's not Hulk, actually, but one that holds a special nostalgic place in my heart. This film is the 2002 live-action Scooby-Doo film. Today, I have technically three co-hosts. First being a Matt Shore, a comedian who has been in CollegeHumor, the Eric Andre Show, and is one of the hosts of the Made Up Movies podcast. And then later on, I'll have Annabelle and Matt from the Variant Vendetta Podcast to help me do scene-by-scene analysis. But currently, we only have with us Matt. So how are you doing, Matt?
Hey, how's it going? I'm so happy to be here. You and I have spent a lot of time chatting back and forth on Twitter over the past couple of months. You've been a huge help to both my co-host Mike Gellar and I on Made Up Movies podcast because we came from a podcast that we really enjoyed doing, but it was very hard to get Twitter feedback on, and you were one of the first people who is just out there being like, yeah, I like your show, I like what you're doing, and that kind of energy really motivated us to keep going. So I just want to thank you first off for having me on and just being like a continued supporter of our show, because we do, even though we mentioned you on the show sometimes and we were like we're fingers crossed that we can get one of your suggestions on as soon as possible. Yeah. Based on the way we randomly select them. It's like you are sort of like an unseen force behind the scenes. Even though you don't directly work on the show, we think of it's like, okay, someone is listening. We know that. Of course, you see the numbers going up and the stats going up as the show grows, but it is nice to have you there, listening and being like, okay, someone likes Calendar. This is great. Someone likes all the dumb stuff we're doing. So I really appreciate that. So I just thank you for having me on, and thank you for everything you've done for us so far. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And thank you for providing me with great content and also for coming on my show.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. I'm glad we got to do this.
I don't know if you've listened to my podcast before, but
I have.
So you should know I have every episode a trivia question at the beginning of the episode. I was wondering, so I want to ask you that real quick. So in this film, Shaggy is portrayed by Matthew Lillard. In what film does Lillard play himself in a scene that involves the animated Scooby and Shaggy?
Oh, okay. I don't know this for sure, but I want to take a swing at it.
Okay.
Looney Tunes Back in Action.
All right. Well, I'll reveal the answer at the end of the show.
Oh no, I want to know.
which since you won't be with me at the end of the show, I'll reveal it to you right after the recording.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
As I say every episode, I highly recommend watching the film before listening to this. Though I do try to mention everything that happens in the film, I don't always end up mentioning it all. So it may not make a lot of sense if you haven't seen the film. And then also the podcast I want to shout out this week is The Internal Cauldron of Emotions. It's hosted by two ladies who like to drink and talk about Nicolas Cage films. I listened to their mom and dad review and I absolutely loved it. It's very entertaining, hilarious, and informative, and I love their dynamic. Please check them out if you like some Cage in your life. All right, so let's get into this review. So first off, what do you think of this film as a whole, Matt?
I remember watching this movie in theaters when it first came out, but I haven't seen it since 2002 until yesterday when I watched it.
Okay.
And I remember liking it then, and I like it now as well. I think that one thing, there's a couple things about it that haven't aged that well, and there were a couple things I didn't like that much initially when I saw it, but overall I feel like for a movie that's like trying to split the difference between being a kids movie and a movie that adults can enjoy, it works. It works overall, and I think that like it's never boring, which I think is one of the best things in its honor. It's not a long movie, but sometimes you'll get movies that have like real dead spots or real slow spots in the middle. But this isn't one of them. Like this movie, like 5 seconds in, you're getting some classic mystery team investigations. It's like if you like the cartoons or even just have a vague memory of the cartoons, like it's not one of those nostalgia movies where it's like they don't let the team up until the very end of the movie or something. It's like, nope, minute one, it's a classic episode of the show with some pretty cool effects too.
Yeah, and I think they did a really good job with that first scene, making sure that it does feel exactly like the old cartoon.
Oh yeah,
like most, I feel like most animated to live action adaptations don't really do that well, but this one definitely did.
There's something about, I think like the thing that sticks out to me as most dated is the quality of the creatures and Scooby's texture, not the way in which they move. I love the way in which they move. I love how Scooby moves in this movie because unlike a lot of the time when they bring cartoonish characters to life in 3D style, they try to make them so photorealistic in terms of movement that they lose that classic Looney Tunes-esque animation style. But this movie is like, nope, Scooby's gonna, like, he has these like chase sequences like they would in the old show, but like they go full on cartoon. It's like
like there's a scene I think both in this one and in a sequel where Scooby as he's falling he stops in midair like out of the original cartoons, and it's and like it doesn't make sense in real life, but it just heightens the experience for this.
I'm also a big amusement park fan, and so for me this movie is sort of a like visual delight like the entire time. Like when you're talking about, there's a sequence where I think like Scooby's being chased by this creature, and he I think what happens is Scooby's trying to escape on like a palm tree or something, and it flings the creature away, and the creature lands on it's a super cartoony thing because it's basically like what would happen to Goofy in a cartoon, a Disney cartoon, where you go woo, and he would like fly off in the distance, but the creature hits like something and then lands on a roller coaster track, and it goes zooming by. And I'm like, this is like a well thought out, well plotted cartoon sequences.
Definitely.
Like they nailed that vibe totally.
Though that scene, I think that scene where, especially when the monster hits the roller coaster, that probably is like one of the biggest moments in the film where the CGI does not hold up well. Today
whenever you get like real close shots, again, I like the way the creatures look and move and how they for the most part, there's a moment where I think it's Velma is trying to pull off the mask of the creature and it stretches the CG. And I'm like, that's just an After Effects trick. You could do that like now. And so it's like, there are little moments like that. And like the textures of them specifically don't match with the lighting, which is stuff that they wouldn't let fly in modern stuff. But the way they move, I think, and it's like, I'm okay. I watched this, when I was in high school. It's not going to necessarily be perfect,
I would say like for 20 years ago it now as of a few weeks ago is exactly 20 years ago. Like I really do think that this is pretty good CGI for back then. I mean, it's not obviously they were like, I mean, I think it's interesting in general, like the vibe of this movie, because like one of the big things, I think there's a couple things like looking at it with a modern lens that are kind of interesting to me. It's like, one, this is a James Gunn scripted movie, right? So it's like, okay, so you can, and originally, if I think this is true, James Gunn wanted to write like an R-rated stoner version of this movie. So this film, so the original cut of this film, though, James Gunn has said that it does not exist anymore, sadly. The original cut was R-rated, and they had to use a lot. Yes, they did, and they had to use CGI to remove a lot of the stuff up that would have made it R-rated, including they had to remove a lot of cleavage from the film. They had to the scene in the Mystery Machine at the beginning when Scooby and Shaggy are making vegan burgers. Right. That was supposed to be weed, actually.
Right. I mean, it works either way, because it's like when they're like, we're going to do what we do best. And then they cut to the van getting smoked out. And it's like, I remember that's like one of the iconic moments of this movie for me. Because like as a kid, I was like, oh, it's going to be this kind of movie. Like, and the fact that his like love interest in the movie is named Mary Jane is another shout out to that. Like, and there are times when it's like, you can feel this cut of the movie like sort of hinting at what was there, like even in the opening sequence, like Daphne's like, he keeps grabbing and then her line just cuts off and you're like, okay, she said something more risque. And there's another cut or another thing in the movie I noticed that felt like it was a big piece of cut content, which is that okay, so you've got like this tribal guy who's like, this island used to have was the spirits have been disrupted by this amusement park. And he's like, this is my evil best bud or something. My evil best pal is what he says at one point. I thought that was funny. My evil best pal. And he's got like a Mexican wrestler as his best friend. And it seems like they changed that character's name or something, because he's like, his name is whatever, and he says his name, and then they cut away when they're about to reveal his wrestler name, and it almost feels like he had something that was like more offensive or inappropriate. Possibly. And they're like, okay, we're not gonna touch that there.
Though I do wonder whether that's like an actual wrestler in real life, because particularly since he mentioned that you'll know him from Telemundo. Right. It makes me wonder if he was a wrestler in real life, and that and that's you may be able to look up, see if he has an offensive name on in real life.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I felt like it was a setup for some sort of joke, and like they just sort of like do a quick cut and it just sort of rolls by. The other thing I noticed is that I said Mary Jane, the Scooby's, or not Scooby, but Shaggy's love interest in this movie is Isla Fisher, which is insane, because like as a kid I was like, okay, I have no idea who this is yet, because I feel like she hadn't blown up yet.
No.
Because I think Wedding Crashers was her big like first movie where she like sort of like became more of a household name. And the fact that she looks like a baby in this movie. She looks like she is like 16 years old. It's crazy that it's just, I love when you go back and revisit a movie like this and you're like, I know that person. What has happened? Like, that was a really fun and satisfying thing too.
What did you think of all the casting for the film? I, for one, really love all of it.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, I think Matthew Lillard is delivering, like, I remember everyone was like, at the time, was like, oh, he does a great job of bringing Shaggy to life. And I still think in a way he's underrated, because well, first of all, they did a really good job of making Scooby-Doo lovable. He's not annoying at all in this movie. He fully sounds like, and is something about his big, like, even though I'm always like a little creeped out when they give animated characters like these big human like eyes where you can see the gloss and the veins. And I'm like, why do they have to be so realistic? They did that in like Detective Pikachu as well. I'm like, I don't need to see like the little veins in their eyes. I get it. They're alive. But I thought both of them make up the heart of the movie in such a real way. Like, I care about the mystery team like getting back together, because I can tell it means so much to them. And like in the little moments where Shaggy is ditching Scoob to hang out with this lady, it's like, I'm like, I feel bad, because you get this like vibe of like, it's a dude saying, no dog, you have to stay at home. And it's like every kid can relate to like the dog being sad. And I thought like in a different version of this movie, little things like that would just get put aside. I also think that Lillard seems to be interacting, like, he has a hard job in that he always has to be looking at this creature that's not there, and he has to, Scooby will leap into his arms or he'll leap into Scoob's arms, and it's like, I never doubt that. I'm like, nope, those two belong together and they exist together in this universe. So he's great.
Like, now a lot of times with CGI things, they'll have like have an actor or who has like a board up that has the CGI character's face on it.
Right.
Back when this was made, they didn't have any of that. So Matthew Lillard, he was working with nothing but a Scooby voice that was coming from off screen, which is which just that makes me appreciate his craft so much more.
At least he knows what Scooby-Doo looks like. You know what I mean? Like, at least if you're like, well, what does Scooby look like? You've got the old cartoons, you can do that. It'd be so much harder if it was an original character and you just have to sort of imagine, right? But like, he's great. I think
like Calendar.
Exactly. Calendar all takes place in your imagination. So it's much hard. I was about to draw Calendar the other day, but I'm like, will this take away from everyone's imagination? Calendar is a character, if you don't know, on our show, who is the god of scheduling, and he's just a bit we do to make fun of people who can't do scheduling. But the other person I want to shout out is Linda Cardellini, in her Velma is incredible. I remember having a crush on her when I saw this movie as a kid. They do like an outfit switch later in the movie where she wears like a slightly more revealing Velma outfit. And I was like, I remember as a kid that being like, I was like, whoa, what a pretty lady. And then I was like, oh, but this time as I watch it as an adult, I'll have a more mature take on it. And then I like totally didn't. I'm like, nope, she still looks hot. I'm still I still have a crush on her even in this. And she does a great job in her performance of bringing that character to life, who's sort of just like a voice and a glasses bit. But like, I also like what she's doing a lot too. I feel like those are the most well-rounded ones, and then Fred and Daphne, even though I like both those actors a lot, are a bit more like silly performances. Like, even compared to Sarah Michelle Gellar's Buffy, I feel like Daphne is a little bit of a less nuanced, well-rounded character. But she does have like a a lot of incredibly great moments in this movie, like her fight and something about the part where she gets hit by the roller coaster and is riding it. I'm like, I don't know why, but I love this. Maybe I just love roller coasters, but both parts where someone gets hit by a roller coaster
are pretty fun.
But like, both Daphne and Fred have to bear the burden of being the dumb one at the same time. Every joke in the movie is about how dumb they are. They're both like, they're like, where are we gonna find an idiot?
I love at the end of the film when Scooby comes to the plane and he's wearing the grandma outfit, and they say, I think it was either Velma or Daphne who says that as how could anyone be so dumb to not realize that that's a dog, and Fred Fred's like, who's the old broad?
What's speaking of the way they bring those characters to life, what's weird is that at the time I'm like, oh, what silly outfits they have the cast wearing, but I guess they do look like the cartoons. But now when I watch it, I'm like, what silly outfits everyone from the 2000s was wearing. Like every time like they show like what's supposed to be a cool college, and again it's all heightened for this cartoonish movie, but like every time it's like, whoa, I'm a cool 2000s guy with like the spiked hair and stuff, and I'm just like, what were people thinking? Like the cartoon outfits, like what Shaggy and Velma are wearing, are like seem more normal to me than anything any of the regular like just extras are wearing. I'm like, everyone looks so crazy with like I don't know, it's very, I can't even describe it. But like the guy with the spiked hair really sticks out to me. He's like, hey, we've known each other since childhood. And I'm like, what? I can't even focus on what you're saying, dude. Your hair is... and again, I'm not talking about, if you haven't seen the movie, I'm not talking about like Bart Simpson spiked hair. I'm saying his hair, he's a white guy who looks like he was trying to do the Coolio hairstyle somehow, with like the tiny dreads going in different directions, but they are gelled up into spikes that like stick out like needles. He looks like a reverse pinhead where the nails are coming out of his skull. It's so insane.
Oh yeah, definitely. What do you think of like the individual character arcs that they have in the film? Like you have Velma, who wants to be valued on the team, and is trying to find herself. If you have Daphne, who is learning that she can be more than just a damsel in distress. Fred Ed has to learn how to earn teamwork. And then you have the emotional journey between Scooby and Shaggy. That Aggie is their friendship. It breaks and reforms. I, for one, think that they did a fantastic job with all of these arcs in the film.
Yeah, I think you have like limited time. Again, it's not a long movie, but they set this stuff up immediately, and they set up like, why is the team going through issues in the beginning of the movie, and I think they did a good job with all of that. Daphne's, I feel like, is played for laughs a lot. It's usually a punchline. It's like, I'm not just a damsel in distress, and then something will happen to make her a damsel in distress. And then Fred's is, I feel like, maybe the least charted. The other two are charted more, but Fred does have a big moment towards the end of the movie where he like, I think his big thing is just that he's like self-centered, right? And he's not giving Velma credit for being like the real brains behind the operation.
Definitely.
And Velma, like, it's interesting because she's like, she doesn't feel like part of the team, which is like such a weird choice, because it's like, but there's like 4 people on the team. Like, I don't know how you could be over, but I guess maybe it's just like when you have like all these bigger personalities than her, it's less about like, of course, to us, of course, Velma is like this core member of the team, but like maybe it's about how she feels on the inside, and it's not how we see her from the outside.
Definitely.
One thing this is more of an aside, but one thing I wish they had gone into slightly more detail is like, how the rest of the world perceives them as a team, like how famous they are. Because it's like there's that thing where it's like you can buy Scooby snacks in the movie, like they're a product. She's like, I love eating Scooby snacks, even though they're dog treats. And it's
I think they go more into that in the sequel. Have you seen the sequel?
I did see the sequel again when it came out, but I haven't. I got them kind of mixed up in my head with what thing happens in which one.
Yeah, I believe that they do some of that in the sequel. They as the biggest difference for why they wouldn't do a lot of that in this film is because they are on an island for the majority of this one versus they are in their hometown of Coolsville in the sequel.
Gotcha. So I was just curious because it's like it seems like some people are like very aware. Well, it's like it seems like Scooby snacks are more famous than it's like they're playing it both ways. It's like Isla Fisher knows that they're that Scooby snacks exist, but doesn't seem to be like, oh, you're the famous Scooby and Shaggy, like if there was Scoob's the only talking dog I know, so it's like you'd think they'd be like, that's freaking Scooby-Doo. Like, let's give him the star treatment from the beginning. But they it seems like they want it to be so much, or they want it to be as much like the old show as possible, where it's like maybe they're like, I don't know, they're known, but they're not the world's most famous people or something like that.
I think they I would how I would guess is they have that they have a devoted cult fan base, but they don't have like the entire world as a fan base is how I would think of it.
That makes sense.
Now, one thing I, for one, really do not think ages quite well with this film is there's two cameos in the film, and from Pamela Anderson and Sugar Ray.
That blew my mind when Pam Anderson walks in, because it's like it's such a specific like post Baywatch Pam Anderson where you're like, what was she doing now? VIP? Like I couldn't remember exactly what show or whatever she was doing at the time, but it's such, and she barely has anything. She has like one line in the movie. Does Sugar Ray even have a line? I feel like he just like sings and then like looks creepy, right?
He I don't know if you remember if he had a line, but it is. I feel like those two cameos, they really don't age well because neither Sugar Ray or Pamela Anderson are very famous anymore.
I feel like they don't. To me, it's weird because like I guess if you were a like a kid who was not alive when this movie was relevant or initially relevant, because it's funny because Scooby-Doo is still weirdly relevant. Like they're still cranking out like different variations of Scooby-Doo. I feel like they functionally still work, but you might just think, oh, that's not the Pamela Anderson, that's just a pretty lady. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's not like they're making specific Baywatch jokes and you're like, what's going on? And like Mark McGrath is there and he's singing, and there's this moment where Sarah Michelle Gellar's like, whoa, like it's really him, almost like in her eyes, like she gets like surprised by but like I guess if you're a kid, you're like, oh, it's just a cool band guy, like you know, like functionally they still work in the scene, so at least there aren't like a bunch of like specific references to their music or something, or that like
one thing I did think was really funny, I feel like most cameos when it's not really a character is important to the rest of the film, they only appear in that one scene that they're they are the focus of. But Sugar Ray was also was one of the monsters who was trying to break down the shed that Scooby and Shaggy were in. And I just thought that was hilarious how they had him appear again.
It makes you wonder if like he's like, oh, I've never done a movie before, and they're like, well, you probably don't want to stick. Or I can just imagine the conversation happening on set where they're like, okay, your big scene's over, we're gonna have some of the monsters break down this thing. You probably don't want to do that, you're a pretty big deal. He's like, hell no, I want to do it, I want to be a monster. Like just like excited to be on set. And like I mean, I don't blame them. They're probably having a fun time on that set. How could you not? But yeah, that was really funny. It is funny because like there's definitely some celebrities who'd be like, no, screw that, I'm out.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
done. I did my thing.
But
he's not one of them.
No, one last thing that I want to talk about a little bit before we end this off it, since there is only 7 minutes it's left with our Zoom meeting.
We've got a ticking time bomb. It can go on.
What do you think of the performance from the owner of Spooky Island, and since this is Mr. Bean who plays him.
Mr. Bean. I love Rowan Atkinson. I love him in everything. He's the greatest. I almost feel like because of how talented he is almost criminally underused in this movie, because every scene he's in, I'm like, okay, they did a good job with him. But I feel like I would love to see a scene with him and Shaggy just doing like physical comedy, because both those guys are so good at physical comedy. And it's like I mean, without going into the ending, I feel like you do get to see some range from him, and you do get to see some cool stuff. But and I like the scene where he's sort of like feeding Scooby snacks too. To show some range there too. But like, to me, there's no such thing as too much Rowan Atkinson. Like, I love him so much. So
yeah, whether it be a Mr. Bean or it be Johnny English, I love him so much.
Or Zazu from Lion King. I mean, like, that's such a huge.
Oh, I didn't even realize he was in Lion King.
Yeah. You two are going to be married. That's him. He's like, that's such an important movie for my childhood too. Like, that hit, like, I was, I think, en route to Disney World when I saw Lion King for the first time. So like, that movie like looms large in my brain. But like, but yeah, he's a fantastic performer. And so it's like, even though he doesn't have he's got like maybe 4 or 5 scenes in the movie, it's just such a delight that he's there. And like, again, this movie is, you have to forgive the some of the way the CG looks in different scenes. Were the moments where I'm like, okay, it's not going to be perfect, but if you look at it from an animation perspective, I think it's cool. And it's like a fun, breezy movie that you could throw on at any time. And like, it doesn't demand your attention. There's like only one scene in the movie where I'm like, ugh, which is they sort of have like a fart burp contest, which feels so like, I don't know, like that era animated comedy. And I'm like, okay.
I'm gonna be honest. I did not expect I would enjoy that scene, but I did. I was laughing out loud. I was laughing like
maybe
crazy.
It's just me being. I'm poo-pooing the poo-poo jokes, but it's not like I'm above it. It's just
I did not expect I would enjoy that scene as much as I did, but I was like, wow.
I was like, okay, this is just in there to be silly. And then the part that did make me laugh, though, is immediately after that, they've just had this like passing gas or burping contest. And then they're hiding, and Shaggy farts and it blows. It creates a fire explosion. And for some reason, every time that happens in anything, it always makes me laugh. Something about the chemistry of farts causing explosions. And I think it's also that Linda Cardellini is is like dressed like an old man. She's like dressed like Nostradamus, wearing a beard, and she's holding a flaming bowl. And something about her holding a flaming bowl that explodes due to a fart is, it just makes me like, there's some combination of that. I'm like, okay, that broke me. So I'm not above it. Obviously, on made up movies, we do some dumb stuff too. But
in that same scene and where they're all dressed up on the side of the ride, I find it hilarious how there happened to be a Scooby shaped night outfit.
Well, he's very malleable. He's a fantastic performer. He can fit into any shape. He can ride an ATV. That's one of the craziest things, when he bursts out of the ATV and he raises his arms. I'm like, Scooby is gigantic.
I love it. Oh man, I think the ATV scene it might be one of my favorite scenes of the film, because it's just hilarious seeing them burst out of there.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. All right, I guess our ticking time bomb is about to go off, isn't it?
Yeah. Since Matt was only able to do a short time with me. You will hear me in just a little bit, as I'll be back with a scene-by-scene analysis with the two hosts from the Variant Vendetta podcast. All right, so we're back. Matt Shore sadly had to leave, but we got Annabelle and another Matt, this one who's not a comedian, from the Variant Vendetta podcast to help up with the scene-by-scene analysis. And I'll ask you two as well the same trivia question I asked Matt. So in this film, Shaggy is portrayed by Matthew Lillard. In what film does Lillard play himself in a scene that is involving the animated Scooby and Shaggy?
Oh, I have no idea.
I'm also not 100% sure.
All right. Well, I will be revealing the answer later in the show. All right. So this film.
Whoa, wait. Pause. You know, I'm something of a comedian myself, John.
I don't think so.
No, John, you were right. He is not a comedian.
I am.
Hey, you have not been on the Eric Andre show or in college humor sketches. Is in the other Matt at the house. It's odd. He was.
What? He's been in the Eric Andre show?
Yep.
I don't even watch that show, but what?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, I'm not a professional comedian.
You're definitely not on his level.
Okay. I'm still pretty funny.
Agree to disagree.
So we start the film out with this fantastic cover of the original Scooby-Doo Where Are You theme song. And then the first scene is set at the Wow Toy Factory as we see the Mystery Inc. fighting the Luna Ghost. So we see the Luna Ghost burst through a window holding Daphne, and she wants the team to hurry up because the ghost keeps grabbing something that cannot be said in a PG film. So, but
what was he grabbing, John?
Probably some lower regions of the body. So this was probably something that was said in the original R-rated cut of this film, since this film originally was R-rated and they had to cut down a lot of the scenes that had inappropriate jokes, and had to CGI a lot of cleavage out of the film to make it so it could have a PG rating.
What?
What?
Are you serious?
Yep.
No way. But like they left the other cleavage in.
Yep.
Wow.
It was like a lot. I think if I remember right, like from what I read, like a lot of the cleavage was much lower, and they had to CGI it to make it so it's it is. appropriate for a PG film.
Lower than what they already had?
I did
Wow.
not know that.
That's wild. I'm kind of interested to see it.
Yeah,
R-rated.
I
have
really
released
want
it.
to see the R-rated
Yeah.
version.
Not
That's
just for
interesting.
boobs, for more fun.
Oh yeah. So we see we see Velma trying to get a hold of Fred on their walkie-talkies. She makes a joke about how shockingly Daphne has been captured again. And then Fred, while setting up a trap, looks into a mirror to admire himself. But which is very much a trait from that classic Fred would do. They explain the plan and that Scooby and Shaggy are in a barrel. The Luna ghost comes close to the barrel and hears Shaggy speak, plus Scooby's tail is shaking out of it. So the Luna ghost lights the barrel on fire, so Scooby jumps. And we see Scooby blows out the fire on his tail as the ghost drops a manhole cover on his head and says, "Boo." This again feels just so classic Scooby-Doo. It's hilarious. I love it.
I thought it was the barrel's lid.
Maybe the barrel's lid. I thought it looked like a manhole cover, but that makes more sense. Shaggy gets up because Scooby starts screaming, and he has, "What are you doing?" And so Scooby does some hilarious facial expressions to tell Shaggy that there's a ghost behind them. They try to run but can't because Velma set a bucket of oil to fall on the floor. And Velma shouts, "Fred, now!" And Fred says, "I got him!" But the barrel that Scooby and Shaggy are running in hits him, and which knocking him over. Fred tries to spray the ghost with a hose from the ground, but instead accidentally hits Velma with it, causing her to fall upside down with a chain. And the net falls on Fred. I feel like this is probably another one of the moments where I'm guessing they used CGI to change it from the original R-rated version, because it was very surprising how when Velma was upside down, somehow how her skirt art is just rigid, right side up. I thought that was hilarious.
Oh yeah, that definitely could have been a lot more revealing.
Yeah, they used a lot of CG in this film. Like when Shaggy's in the barrel and he's on the skateboard on the ramp, it's like you can see where the face opening in the barrel, they had a green screen at that part and they put Matthew Lillard's face on it. It's very noticeable.
Yep. So let's see. Back to Scooby and Shaggy riding. They find a skateboard and get on it. Riding the skateboard, they get ramped onto a conveyor belt. They do some sick moves, and obviously, Scooby is obviously having a lot of fun. Scooby grabs a hook to stop them from getting crushed, which I really enjoy how much fun Scooby was having during this scene. Let's see. The next, they swing on the hook, hitting the Luna ghost, knocking him into some toys. And Fred and Velma come running, and Velma asks Daphne, "Are you okay?" And Daphne pokes her head out the toys and says, "I'm so over this damsel in distress nonsense." This starting her arc for the film, which I really love her arc for the film. What do you guys think of her arc for the film?
Daphne is my favorite character out of all the characters for Scooby-Doo. She's my favorite. I like love and hate her damsel in distress character type thing. Like it's funny, but also it's like it's like, come on, she doesn't need help all the time. She shouldn't need help all the time. So I really like how in this movie they kind of give them time apart and then make it.
By her arc, I mean, like I like how she gets this arc in the film of being able to feel more confident in herself, and she's able to tell herself, you don't have to be saved, and she's able, and by the end of the film, she's able to save herself.
Yes, I loved that.
Yeah.
She got a black belt.
Yep. Though I don't remember if they told us what she's black belt in. Just some kind of martial art.
Yeah, she just said black belt and that her body is a weapon.
Yep. A very powerful weapon.
Yeah. Yep. So Fred asks, "Where's Shagster?" And so Shaggy and Scooby poke their heads out, saying, "We're here. That was fun. Let's grab another skateboard and do it again." And then at this point, the mystery machine comes crashing in with the cops, and Pamela Anderson walks out, as well as some Mystery Inc. fans. What did the two of you think of Pamela Anderson making a cameo in this film?
Okay, when I was watching the scene, I just watched this like 30 minutes ago. When I watched it, I was like, who's driving the van? And then Pamela Anderson jumped out. I was like, what is Pamela Anderson doing in this movie?
Yeah, why was she driving the van? I don't. And where did all these fans come from?
Yeah.
She makes a comment about somebody else, and I was like, okay, but what do you think about Motley Crue's drummer, Nikki Sixx? They never comment on that, and it's kind of disappointing.
So, yeah. Like, honestly, my thoughts of this is like I think this scene might be one of the only times in this film where it really does not age well, because Pamela Anderson is not crazy famous anymore, so but also it's just a really weird cameo for this film.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and she had her own Barbie, pretty much.
Yeah.
She also had something else, but we don't have to talk about that.
So Fred signs some autographs, and then the press starts asking any questions. We find out this whole case was for an action figure that Pamela wants to make, and Fred gets asked, what's his secret to success? He responds, I do a tremendous amount of teamwork, and I always have a plan. And Velma is noticeably mad at this, which is starting her arc for the film, which is be able to get herself to be more recognized by the rest of the team, because she definitely deserves that. They unmask the Luna Ghost to reveal he's Old Man Smithers. He wanted revenge because Pamela refused to go out with him, which is just really weird. The reason for this, but okay.
Probably because Nikki asked her out first. Nikki Sixx. You guys know who that is, right?
No, I have no idea.
God, come on.
No clue.
Nope.
Her husband back in the 90s.
Is that who Sebastian Stan played in the Pam and Tommy movie?
I still need to watch that. I haven't watched that yet.
You guys don't like Motley Crue at all?
I don't know them.
I've heard some stuff, but I don't
John,
like...
I'm 100% sure, John, you have definitely heard Motley Crue songs at one point or another.
Probably, but I don't know the name. So Velma reveals how he was able to fly. As he had some special form of helium in his suit. And Old Man Smithers says the iconic line that every villain says in Scooby-Doo after being caught. But one thing they don't reveal in this scene, which is even when I was a little kid, I always wanted to know how did he glow? How did the Luna Ghost glow? Because they never revealed that.
I
It's
know.
just CGI.
It's weird.
Obviously CGI. But within the context of the story, how did it glow? Because that makes it look like it possibly could be a real ghost, but since it's obviously not, it shouldn't be able to glow. So let's see. And outside, Velma says, "Fred, I can't believe you took credit for my plan again." And then then Daphne complains, "The ghost pawed me for an hour and a half." And Fred says, "It's not our fault you always get kidnapped." Daphne responds, "I don't always get kidnapped." Velma says, "Oh, please, you come with your own ransom note." And then Daphne responds by grabbing Velma's glasses, causing her to start searching on the ground for them. And Daphne says, "Who's helpless now?" Which I thought that was a pretty hilarious moment.
I loved it. It's like a sister thing. That's totally a thing that sisters do.
So Velma blindly chokes Fred, saying, "I'll kill you, Daphne." And Fred shouts, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, watch the ascot." Shaggy tries to calm everyone, saying, "I know I'm just the guy who holds the bags, but I think we all hold an important part in this group." And he makes an analogy to a banana split. Fred likes this because Shaggy says that he's the big banana.
Now that you said the thing about the R-rated, it's like we're going through this and it's like pinging in my brain. It's like, yep.
You
That's
did
adult.
not notice any of the adult jokes before?
I did notice
like
the adult jokes, but it's like more prominent now that I know this was originally R-rated.
This is literally like a Shrek movie where it's like made for kids, quote unquote, but at the same time there's still a lot of adult humor.
Oh yeah, definitely. So then Velma says, "You really put it in perspective for me. I quit." And then Fred and Daphne also quit, leaving Shaggy and Scooby alone. And Scooby heartbreakingly asks, "Do I quit?" And Shaggy tells him, "No, friends don't quit." And we see a Scooby sadly putting his paw on the back window of the Mystery Machine as they drive away. That was really sad.
Yeah. It's always sad when friends break up.
Yeah.
Especially when its dog is involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for a CGI creature or with Scooby-Doo, they were able to give him a lot of emotion.
He looks really good too.
Yeah. He really does.
Yeah.
So let's see. So this first bit of them at the Wallow factory was honestly such a perfect opening to the film because it really does feel exactly like classic Scooby-Doo. What did the two of you think of this opening?
I loved it. It, like you said, classic Scooby-Doo, and there are definite points in the movie where it's like I get those chills, like nostalgia chills, where I'm like, oh, this is just like the cartoon. I love it.
Yeah, there are points of the film where like it surprised me by how much I laughed watching it again now as an adult. Because it's like basically you wouldn't think you would be laughing at still as an adult, but you are.
Yeah.
It is,
And, like,
I agree. It is very classic Scooby-Doo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen this since I was a kid, so now watching it as an adult, I finally get all the adult humor.
Oh yeah,
and it made it even better.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I also did not get really any adult humor. I knew that there was adult humor in it because I've watched a lot of videos about this film before, but I haven't watched it in probably 10 or so years before doing this review. Oh my god, it's so good. So we cut to 2 years later. Scooby and Shaggy are grilling up eggplant burgers in the Mystery Machine, which this is another thing that was CGI'd to make it so it could fit in a PG film, because they originally were going to be smoking pot in this scene.
That's exactly
you
what I thought.
Notice how like when they're zooming in on the van, there's like smoke coming out of the top of it, and as it's coming down, Shaggy's like talking about getting toasted or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I never got that when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so okay, I live in a state where marijuana is halfway legal. It's decriminalized. So what I did for this movie was I went and got Taco Bell, and then I smoked some marijuana, ate the Taco Bell, and watched this movie, and had the best time of my fucking life.
I bet.
It was
That
great.
sounds great.
I've had the best time ever. I highly recommend, if you, I know you guys don't, but if you do smoke marijuana and you're in a state that is legal, I highly recommend watching this movie while doing that, because it's just
sounds great.
10 times better.
Did you just encourage his listeners to break the law?
I said if it was legal in your state, okay? We're getting there, okay? We're getting there with legalization.
All right. So they get a knock on the door from someone who says they are looking for a Mr. Rogers and a Mr. Do. And Shaggy tells Scoob to grab the food so they can rush out of there. Which makes a bit more sense when you know about know that it was CGI to be food and not marijuana. Makes a bit more sense because why would they need to rush out with the food?
Because it's Scooby and Shaggy. They love food.
They do.
Well, but that's that someone's gonna catch them.
That's what my innocent mind thought. I thought that when I was a kid watching this, I thought, oh, they don't want somebody asking them to do some more detective work, and it's Scooby and Shaggy. They love food, so they want to bring it with them to try to escape this guy.
Yep, exactly what I thought. Yeah.
Oh, the innocence of child minds. Oh, that's getting out of the van, and Shaggy tries to be nice, but tells the man and they are not detectives anymore. He says he was sent to invite them to an amusement park called Spooky Island. Shaggy says, "We don't go to places with that name." And he also mentioned a bunch of other names similar, but then and mentions hydrocolonic, which is definitely a very different thing, but it's but most likely the reason why they did that is because it's similar to another word, which has to do with marijuana.
Well, Shaggy did say that they were not going to places under that name.
Yep.
For different reasons.
Yep.
Yep.
But I just wanted to point out that because it's a similar word, so I have to do with marijuana.
That did make me chuckle a little bit watching it this time.
So the guy says that he'll pay you a fee of $10,000. Shaggy still doesn't budge, and the guy starts listing everything that will be provided for them, till eventually he finally says, "And all you can eat," which perks up Shaggy's ears. And then we transition to the airport as Fred is heading to a plane to Spooky Island. He runs into Velma, who also happens to be going to Spooky Island. She asks him how he's been doing. He tells her about his book, Fred on Fred, and then he asks about her. She says that she's working at NASA, and more importantly, trying to find herself. This most likely being in reference to a deleted storyline by Warner, because they didn't want there to be a story about her finding out that she's a lesbian in the early 2000s.
What?
No way.
Yep.
Oh my
James Gunn
God.
originally planned for her to be a lesbian, and that her and Daphne were going to have a relationship.
Oh my God, this is a James Gunn movie, isn't it?
That's why it's so good.
I forgot about that.
It's not actually directed by James Gunn, but he wrote it.
Oh my God. I think I would have loved that storyline.
Oh yeah.
I think everybody would have loved that storyline.
Probably Matt for different reasons than you.
Probably.
We're not gonna get into those reasons. We don't have to. We can keep going.
So, Fred and Velma see Daphne trying to check in 7 carry-on bags, and she says, "Oh no, I'm not talking to you guys," and then makes a zipping motion and with her hand, and then puts it in the air, which does not sound I confirmed for but I feel like in the original version, probably when she put her hand her finger up in the air, I'm guessing she was probably flipping them off in the original version.
Probably.
Because it was a little weird her just putting her finger up in the air at the scene.
I hope so. I hope that's what she was doing in the original.
Now I need to see this art.
Dude, could you imagine a James
Gunn
Gunn
never released it?
Like straight up James Gunn, like, you know, you also have Suicide Squad, right? The new one.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that, but Scooby-Doo.
Yep.
Just unhinged James Gunn Scooby-Doo. That's hilarious.
I really want to see that version of the film, but sadly they never released it, and James Gunn has said that it does not exist anymore.
Oh, that's
it was it was only shown to a few test audiences.
How would y'all feel if James Gunn did like a reboot with the same actors? How would y'all feel about that?
I would like that. But the sadly, James Gunn even though everyone on Twitter keeps telling him, please make a third Scooby-Doo film, he refused to do it for the main reason that he believes that Scooby would be dead by now.
Oh, come on. Don't make us think about that.
What?
Which is stupid, because Scooby-Doo, for anyone who actually knows the lore of Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo lives longer than a regular dog.
He's immortal.
Yes.
You could
he
still
literally
do it.
is immortal.
There are so many ways to get around that. Yeah. You could totally still do that.
And like they could use like de-aging technology, like with the Marvel films, make the actors look how they did 20 years ago, and then and just set the film like 15 or so years ago, after the events of the second film.
Yeah,
because James Gunn did actually have a plan though for what a third film could be. He said on Twitter that apparently it was going to be the main story of it would be that they were dealing with a situation where the ghost were not the bad guys, but instead the regular people, and they had to who deal with their prejudices against Ghost, which would have been really interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. I think he should still do it. I think
because they in the in studio films they've had very bad experiences with ghosts, so they automatically think that they're evil. Yep. So then let's see. Let's see. So they figure out that all of them were hired by the same guy, and Daphne wants to be able to solve all of this by herself. Often, Fred makes a joke about being caught, to which she responds that I'm a black belt now. And then we see Shaggy. He arrives, excited to see everyone. And Velma asks, "Where's Scooby?" And so we then see a Scooby walking over in an old lady dress. And Shaggy says they don't allow big dogs on the plane. And Daphne says no one is stupid enough to believe that. To which Fred responds, "Who's the ugly old broad?" Which I found hilarious.
I feel like that scene was another, like, I feel like they didn't have Scooby in that dress. They probably had him in like a provocative dress, just based on the reactions of the people in the airport as he walks by.
Maybe.
Especially that one kid. You know that one kid I'm talking about.
I cannot imagine, even in a provocative dress, any kid would be acting the ways you're talking about, Matt.
You know that one kid. One kid's like.
I did not notice that
he does his face
kid.
like that.
Oh God. So Scooby gives Fred a kiss, and Shaggy tells him to say hello to Grandma. And Shaggy tries to get them to be a team again, but they just get on the plane in sadness. On the plane, and Shaggy gets out his sandwich, and he's about to eat it when he sees something. He sees a girl, and in this moment of distraction, Scooby scarfs down the sandwich, which I love seeing that. This girl asks Shaggy if he minds her taking a seat next to his grandma. Shaggy, who's now in love, has no problem letting her take that seat. The girl sneezes and then apologizes about it, saying that usually only dogs cause this. And Scooby and Shaggy just look at each other at this moment, which I thought was pretty funny. And she tells them that maybe I ought to move. Shaggy responds, no, it's probably just my grandma's perfume, but that's okay because Grandma wants to visit her old pal Velma. And Scooby then in a very defeated voice says, "Okay," and starts walking back to active Velma. Which I thought that pretty funny. But I also kind of feel a little bit bad for Scooby because his best friend is dumping him for someone he just met.
Yeah, a girl too.
Yep.
What's her name?
Wait, I'll get that to that in just a second. So
okay.
okay. after Scooby leaves, Shaggy notices that this girl also likes Scooby snacks, and he tells her, telling her about how he likes them too. They bond, and she says her name is Mary Jane.
He says that's like my favorite
Yep.
names.
Yup. I was writing this down. I was like, I wrote, I wonder why. There's no way it's a reference to Shaggy liking weed.
No, not at all. Get your head out of the gutter, John.
Oh man. So Scooby sits next to Fred and Velma, where there's a cat across from them. And as Scooby sits down, he politely says, "Hello." Then Scooby notices the cat, which causes him to start going berserk, barking up a storm. And Fred tries to calm him down by flicking his nose. And Scooby does not like this. So Scooby punches him, which I absolutely love that.
Punches him right in the nose. It's hilarious.
Oh, yeah. It was great. So then, and Scooby proceeds to chase the cat throughout the plane, and we hear Shaggy say this hilarious line of "Sit, Grandma, don't eat the kitty, Grandma." Oh my god, so good. So Mystery Inc. makes it to the island, and we hear the owner making a speech about the island from inside of a robot. He sees Mystery Inc. and starts greeting them, and accidentally hits people while waving at Mystery Inc. because he's in the robot and he can't see the people who's walking by, which I thought pretty funny. So then, and he gets out of the robot and introduces himself properly. And they tell him that he's not very spooky, and he says, "Oh, I can be spooky," and he starts growling to show them. It doesn't work well. And Velma says, "So you are who brought us here?" And he says, "No, what brought you here is your insatiable appetite for mystery." And he tells them, "I need you to fix Spooky Island. I believe someone is casting a spell on the students." He tells them to look at the differences between those arriving and those leaving. The people leaving look sober and dead inside, which that was not something that was said in the film. The sober part was, but the dead side was just how I saw them. I imagine you two probably would agree that they definitely looked very dead inside.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Better than drunk and dead inside.
I do wonder if they actually were sending some people off the island, because we did know that they were trying to take over the world. So I wonder whether they actually did send some of the monsters off the island in these people's bodies.
Yeah, I think they did, because you see towards the end when they release all those souls, you see a ton of them going off into the sky.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think they did get a good amount of people off.
Okay. Interesting. So they see that this guy go up to someone named Carol, who is one of the people leaving, and she just throws him across the beach, which I thought was pretty funny. Fred, Velma, and Daphne all go separate ways as they are all determined to solve this mystery by themselves. They can't possibly work together on it. The owner says, "Marvelous. Maybe we can celebrate later with a spookapalooza." And Scooby gets scared by this, and he says, "Ruh-roh." And I love this so much because like this just really like, particularly whenever he says ruh-roh, it particularly like confirms to me this is the perfect live action Scooby-Doo.
Oh yeah,
It feels so much exactly like the old cartoons.
it
I
does.
was thinking the same thing when I was watching it earlier.
Oh yeah. So that night, Velma asked a skeleton if he's seen any weirdos, which I thought was pretty funny. And then this performance starts, which startled Velma. And the host of this performance introduces himself and his friend, a masked wrestler from Telemundo, which I thought hilarious that they particularly mentioned he is from Telemundo. Also, I will for the rest of this review, I will not be saying the name of the host because I do not want to butcher it, because it is definitely not a simple name to say.
No, it is not.
John, let me ask you something about this guy. Did you also get Indiana Jones Temple of Doom vibes from him? You know the one villain in Indiana Jones Temple of Doom that like pulls the hearts out of people?
Maybe a little, but I didn't think about it while I was watching it at all.
Rewatch it and tell me you don't see that is the same person. And also, did you notice the tattoo like right in the middle of his chest where his heart is? It's literally a heart with a hand around it, and the heart itself is on fire. Tell me that's not Indiana Jones Temple of Doom.
A reference to that.
Caught that.
So then, the host talks about how this island's history, and this, and how he's not happy that a amusement park got built here. He asks Velma if his friends frighten her, and she says they would if it weren't for the holographic projectors, and she points out where all of the projectors are, and he says, "What a smart little one," as he pats her on the head, which I would say was creepier than all of his entire performance.
Oh yeah, so creepy. And he calls her a cookie too. He's like, "What a smart little cookie."
Yeah.
It made me cringe.
Yeah. So he walks away, and then the scene transitions to Dead Mike's bar. The bartender gets a phone call, and the person on the line asks for a Mr. Do. We see Scooby walk in with Shaggy and Mary Jane, and they push Scooby off to the side as they go on a date alone. The bartender asks, "Do we have a Mr. Do here? I got a call for a Mr. Do." And this guy stands up and asks if it's for or Melvin Do.
Melvin Do? That's one of my favorite lines in the whole movie.
My God. Like,
I don't know why it's so funny.
When I watched this as a kid, I don't remember like the calling back to that joke at the end of the film, and I absolutely loved that they called back to that joke at the end of the film. It was so good.
Did they? When did they do that?
You didn't notice? I'll talk about it when we get to it there.
Annabelle didn't notice either. I saw you thinking about it.
I didn't, because I remember something about Melvin Dew coming up a second time. Oh, I know what it is. It's at the end of the movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I guess I'll be surprised then.
Yeah. Let's see. The bartender says, no, Scooby. And so Scooby walks up and answers the phone. And the person on the other end says, is that they got a bag of hamburgers here for you. Just walk into the dark, shadowy part of the forest where no one can see you. And Scooby's eyes light up, and he says, okay. And so Scooby sneaks out. We see a Shaggy win and marry a severed head plushie. And Mary Jane says, no one ever has given me a stuffed dismembered head before, which I found really hilarious.
It was actually kind of cute.
Oh, yeah. We see Daphne on the beach as she finds this weird guy's house. Actually, before that, do you think at this point that Mary Jane has already been taken, or does that happen later, do you think?
I think it
because we never
a
see
little bit
when
later.
she gets taken.
I think it's already happened.
You think it's already happened? I think it might be like a little bit later. Like that night that the monsters show themselves to everybody. I think that's the night that she gets taken.
Do you think maybe that she's taken like during the night when they're sleeping on the beach?
Maybe.
Wait. Actually, I don't think that could be, because if that were the case, then why would they not have taken all of them?
I'm just gonna say it happens way sooner. Just to disagree with Annabelle.
Wow.
That's my reasoning.
No, I think it happens during the whole commotion of the monsters being everywhere. And then like she quickly meets back up with them as the monster like has taken with them, because she calls the Coast Guard.
Yeah, that was a very interesting thing when they called the Coast Guard later.
Yeah, and I think that was the monster that called the Coast Guard.
Okay.
Why would the monster call the Coast Guard? We'll get it. We'll get to that part.
Obviously to not get caught, make it so they definitely think that they're think that she's real. So let's see. So we see Daphne on the beach as she finds this guy's house, and she rudely barges in on him. The guy is doing some voodoo on a chicken, and Daphne says, "Excuse me," and he turns to her holding a knife, annoyed, asking, "What are you doing? Now I have to start my voodoo ritual all over again. I was about to sacrifice this chicken." And Daphne says, "But that chicken's not alive." And he says, "I know it's not alive. Did you figure that out when you noticed it doesn't have a head?" Oh my God. I love this guy.
Me too. He was really funny.
Oh yeah. And I honestly I like how how he does not end up being the villain of the film. I'm glad that they didn't make him the villain.
Yeah.
So then let's see. So he asks, "What do you want?" And she tells him how she's looking for clues. And he says, "Well, here's a clue. Purple is a fall color. It's the middle of May." Which I found that hilarious.
Another one of my favorite jokes in this movie.
I thought it was so funny. And I think it's hilarious that like Daphne's very fashionable. She's one of those it girls. So she
Yeah.
definitely knows that, but she chooses to wear purple on her like because she loves it.
Yep.
And I love that.
Oh yeah. So then he tells her to go home before the evil hits you. And whatever you do not go to the spooky island castle. And Daphne goes on this rant on how she thinks that he's trying to trick her. And he is very confused by this rant. And he says, "Didn't you hear what I said? Huh?" Then we see her leaving to the castle. And as she's leaving to the castle, we hear him say, "What in the world?" We see if and let me see. Oh yeah. So I honestly feel if this had not been a PG film, I feel like instead of him saying "what in the world," I feel like he probably would have said "what the fuck."
Probably. I have Deadpool on the brain still. So when you started saying what in the my brain automatically went to what in the ass.
In the ass.
Oh yeah. So we see Scooby in the forest humming "Hamburgers, where are you?" And he sees a sign saying "Hamburgers this way," and so he takes off running. We see it, and he sees the bag that's supposed to have the burgers. And Scooby puts his hands together in prayer, saying "thank you." And and looking up in the sky, which I found that so fucking hilarious.
It's so funny. And I love how they made the bag like glow gold. That was hilarious too.
Oh yeah. So Scooby then starts trying to get into the bag, and while he's distracted by that, a monster appears behind him. He finally grabs the bag down, causing the tree to bounce back, hitting the monster. And then and Scooby, who now has the bag on his head and is able to get the bag off of his head, the monster grabs the bag off of Scooby's head, and Scooby he screams and tries putting the bag back on his head, and which I absolutely love that. The monster then takes the bag and Scooby runs. He climbs a tree and the monster follows. The tree starts bouncing, hitting Scooby in his no-no square, causing him to fall in pain, and the tree to send the monster flying. Then while I think that Scooby's CGI holds up pretty well with this film, I definitely think that the monsters in this film, their CGI does not at all. They
doesn't
look really bad.
Like the actual like monster itself looks okay, but like put in the film, it looks bad, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I think it kind of, I agree with Scooby, he looks better, but for the monsters, I feel like they kind of stand through time too, just because this is a Scooby-Doo movie and it's meant to be like fantastical and fake and
Okay, yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah, I had to keep telling myself that while watching this. I was like, ooh, that doesn't look very good. But then you have to remember it's supposed to not really look good. It's supposed to be like the cartoon come to life.
Yeah, and it's also as of like 2 weeks ago, 20 years old.
Wow. It is. That's crazy.
Oh my god. Yeah. Let's see, and Scooby then comes running out of the forest as Shaggy is finishing his date. And Scooby tries to alarm him to the monster, but Shaggy doesn't believe him. Because a person walks out of the woods in a costume. But Shaggy not believing things that Scooby says is something that will definitely hit a breaking point in the film later. So
I love how the rabbit dude just comes out and starts like dancing. He's like, oh yeah.
So Mary Jane leaves, and then Daphne appears, calling Shaggy and Scooby over. She wants them to go into a spooky castle for her. And Shaggy says, no way. Scooby and me don't do castles. Castles have paintings with eyes that follow you, suits of armor you think are statues, and there's a guy that follows you every time you turn around. And I love how this whole time that Shaggy's talking, Scooby is doing impressions of all of everything that Shaggy is describing and behind his back.
Yes,
hilarious.
I love it. Scooby was so good in this. They did such a good job with Scooby in this.
Oh yeah.
Don't you also love how meta it is? Like they're literally saying things that have happened in Scooby-Doo cartoons for ages.
I do. I love it.
Yeah. So Daphne asked, how many times has that actually happened? And Shaggy says, 12. We're not doing it. I love how he's actually counted all the times that this has happened.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and as they are to walk away, Daphne says, Scooby. And so Scooby excitedly turns around and he tries to manipulate her by whimpering and holding his paw up, but Daphne manipulates him though, asking if he will do it for a Scooby snack, and Scooby starts jumping for joy, saying, "Oh boy, yeah!" And Daphne says, "And you'd be fearless." And so Scooby stands straight up, saying, "Rearless." Starts showing his fighting positions, and he accidentally hits Shaggy in the face, which I found hilarious. So that Daphne gives him the treat and says, "Plenty more where that came from. Now let's go." And Scooby says, "Okay," and follows her. And right before going in, Daphne turns around and asks Shaggy, "You aren't gonna sit out here alone, are you?" And Shaggy scaredly says, "No, thank you." Oh, and he follows them. Oh man. And they get inside, and Shaggy says, "This place is uber creepy." And Daphne says, "Yeah, the only thing missing is a mindless zombie." And at this moment, the door opens and Fred walks in. Which I didn't catch this when I was watching the film, but I do kind of wonder if they're joking here and they're trying to say that Fred is a mindless zombie, which
I totally got
probably.
that. I totally got that.
Which would make sense with with how he reacted to Scooby in the grandma outfit.
That's exactly what I thought when I saw this. That is the exact thing that I thought.
Oh man. So let's see. Fred and Daphne argue about whose dibs this place is, and Daphne says, "If anyone messes with me, I'll open a can of whoop ass on them." And she's and as she says this, something sneaks up behind her. It puts a hand on her shoulder, which scares both her and Shaggy. And then Velma appears from behind it laughing. And she explains how this place makes the most sense to hatch an evil plan. And she wanted to scare the patootie out of Daphne. And Fred says, "Since we're all together, let's split up and look for more clues." You're gonna say something, Matt?
Does she actually say? I just don't remember this, but does she actually say, "I'm gonna open a can of whoop ass"?
I was just thinking that.
Yes, she does.
Does she really? And there's another.
Oh, yeah.
There's another time in the movie where Fred says like "biatch," and I was like, "God."
Oh,
Oh,
wow,
yeah.
I did not catch that.
Oh yeah. So it's but it's surprising that they were allowed to have those words in a PG film.
Yeah, that's really surprising.
Well, it was 20 years ago.
But there's also another word that, which we will get to later, that also I'm surprised they were allowed to have in a PG film.
Ooh, I'm excited.
So let's see. So then Fred says, "Daphne, you and I," and Velma cuts him off, saying, "Typical." Fred says, "What?" Then Velma tells him, "Oh, nothing. I was always picked last for the teams." And Fred says, "Okay." And so he plans him and Velma being together, Daphne on her own, and Shaggy and Scooby, they can just do whatever they do.
So, like, there are times in this movie where I kind of feel like Velma has a crush on Freddie because of that right there. She's always like, "Oh, you don't want to go with me. You want to go with Daphne because y'all are a thing, and then Scooby and Shaggy are a thing."
Mm-hmm. That could be like one of the changes from Warner Brothers, just to hide the fact that that originally she was going to be a lesbian.
That could be true.
Fred also
need that.
Fred also does say that thing about nerdy chicks turn him on too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there are moments where she like looks at him a certain way.
Oh, so Shaggy and Scooby find a dining room area, and Shaggy he says, "Pinch me, I'm in," and Scooby cuts him off by pinching him, which I thought that was pretty funny. We then see a Daphne uses her strength on a boarded up door to pull a piece off of it, and then we see Fred with Velma walking. Fred tells Velma, "I never meant to pick you last," and Velma says, "Don't worry about it, Fred. I know all you care about are swimsuit models." And this is where Fred says, "I'm a man of substance. Darky chicks like you turn me on too." And Velma has a disgusted look on her face as she walks away from him, which I found that pretty funny.
Yeah,
What? It's a
really,
compliment.
no, it's kind of a gross thing to say.
Yep,
It's like a
definitely.
backhanded compliment. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, that's what Fred says next. That's not coming from
Mhm.
me. He does say,
Yeah.
what? It's a compliment.
Yeah. So as they walk off, we see this guy behind a wall. And then we're back to Daphne, who's trying to push a door open. And the guy from behind the wall turns everything on in the castle. And Daphne kicks the door open, but in that distraction, gets hit by a coaster cart. I'm not exactly what it's called, but
A roller coaster car.
Okay,
Yeah.
roller coaster car. So everything starts moving around the others, and we see Fred and Velma running through some falling blades, and then Shaggy and Scooby get thrown up against a wall with sausages. And then
Nice.
we see as Fred and Velma hit a dead end, she starts pulling books down, saying, "There has to be a secret passage." And Fred shouts out, "This is a ride." And she responds, "You got a better plan? Quick." And so Fred starts helping her, which I don't understand. And this Fred said, "This is a ride," so as if that means there shouldn't be a secret passage. If anything, I feel like that would make it more likely that there'd be a secret passage, because because as it is in the film, to get to the employees only areas of the castle that are not supposed to be seen, but seen with doors or everyone else. So I don't understand why he thinks this is such a surprising idea that there'd be a secret passage.
Well, I think because like most, like in the real world rides like that, the door is disguised like in the whole experience of the ride, and it's only used for emergencies. So I could understand, because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, why would there be a book in this ride that opens a secret door? But it's Scooby-Doo, so that's why.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. It's Scooby-Doo. That's the easy answer.
Yeah. It has to be ridiculous.
I mean, yeah. We see a Scooby asks Shaggy, "What do we do?" And Shaggy responds, "What we do best, eat." And so Scooby takes a bite out and then spits it out, saying, "It's plastic." And then and Shaggy responds, "What do you care? You drink out of a toilet." And so Scooby turns to him and in a dead serious tone says, "So do you." Which I laughed so hard when he said this.
Yep.
Oh my God.
I love the dynamic between Shaggy and Scooby. Like the casting for this movie was perfect.
Oh yeah, like and especially actually like Matthew Lillard was able to create so much chemistry with Scooby-Doo, even though he was acting alongside no one in a lot of these scenes. And he so behind the scenes, like he just heard an off-screen a voice actor doing the Scooby-Doo lines as he was filming, and he had to act like there was someone there. I think they didn't even have like how they nowadays have like someone who's with like a Scooby-Doo picture on themselves or something, so he has something to act up against. And they didn't have it. If I remember from what I read, they didn't have anything like that. So he literally had to act with there being nothing around him, just the voice always coming from off screen.
That's just more props to Matthew Lillard for being a great actor.
He's such a great actor.
I love him, especially in the Scream movie. That's my favorite movie that he's ever done.
He's such a good person too.
He is. He's really great. I know? I think I sent it to y'all since it was the 20 years of the Scooby-Doo. He was a host for a mystery van Airbnb in California celebrating the 20 years, and like all the money that went for that was donated to a charity.
Yeah.
Did you just call it a mystery van? Not a mystery machine.
I was thinking of the word, but I was blanking.
Mystery.
Oh my god.
Van.
Man, I would have loved to be able to go and get spend a night in the mystery machine. That would be so cool.
It would be.
Oh man. So let's see. Then and Daphne on the cart freaks out saying, "I'm helpless. I'm gonna die." And then back to Fred and Velma. Fred gets pushed in front of a blade, so Velma throws him a book to soften the blow when it hits him, and he uses it as a shield, but still gets thrown through a glass window, which turns off the machine in saving everyone. The wall then falls from behind Shaggy and Scooby, and Velma shouts out to seeing if Fred is all right, and Fred appears unharmed, armed in the window, and Velma pulls the last book out, opening the passage, which just so happened to be the last book that possibly could be on the shelf, which I found hilarious. Yeah. So getting up from the fallen wall, Scooby spits out some more plastic, and Shaggy says, "This feels like that time we tried to eat the guy in the hot dog costume." Which, what the fuck? Also, that's pretty hilarious.
The only thing I can think of as to why they would do that is they're trying to really drive home the fact that Shaggy is supposed to be like the super pothead stoner. So like maybe he was so high that he couldn't tell that it was a person in a costume.
Yeah.
Which is not accurate, by the way.
Oh my god. You'd have to have probably some different sorts of drugs to get that kind of psychedelic experience.
Definitely.
Oh my god. But yeah, it was just so surprising when I heard that. I was like, what? They tried to eat a guy in a hot dog costume? Oh my god. So then Fred and Velma explore this school-looking room that Fred crashed into, and the guy who turned everything on earlier sneaks away. Daphne finds a room with a pyramid-shaped item in the center. And then we see Fred and Velma watch a creepy training video. And Shaggy and Scooby find a kitchen with a camera. Which that is the same room that is in the creepy training video, which is something I never noticed until this viewing, that it's the same room.
Really? I didn't even notice that this time.
Yeah, it's the same room. And that's the reason why there's a camera in the kitchen.
That would make sense.
It's a studio.
Yeah. I had never noticed that before. So, Velma tells Fred this seems to be a brainwashing cult facility, and every cult has a Papa Smurf. And which I kind of feel like is foreshadowing for the ultimate villain, who is quite short, like a Smurf.
Yep.
Not quite as
He's
blue.
not
though.
blue, yeah.
He's not blue.
Yeah.
And that training video, that was for the monsters, right? So that they know how to be like young humans.
Yeah.
You know what that training video
Yeah.
reminded me of? If you've
What?
ever worked at like a retail job, it's just one of those
Oh,
training
yeah.
videos that you have to go through before you can actually start.
Yeah.
So then Fred questions that it might be the owner of the park, and Velma asks, "Would he invite us then?" And we then see Daphne walks up to the pyramid in the middle of her room and touches it, which opens it up, and she then closes it and grabs it, causing the walls to start to come up, trying to put her in a massive pyramid. She barely escapes and runs out of there. And then in the kitchen, and Scooby burps, and Shaggy burps back, and then Scooby burps louder, causing Shaggy to ask, "Are you challenging me?" And Scooby says, "Raby," as he burps louder, and they have a burp/fart off. And Daphne walks in, disgusted by them. Scooby notices and tries to get Shaggy to stop, but he won't. And finally, Shaggy notices that she's there, and Daphne scolds him, saying, "We are here to solve a mystery." And Shaggy says, "Yeah, Scoob," which Scooby is very annoyed that Shaggy just threw him under the bus. This is such a childish scene, but honestly, even now as an adult, I laughed out loud harder than I have in a long time watching this scene.
Oh, I lost it. I was like tearing
It's
up
so
laughing.
good. Oh yeah, it's so funny watching them burp, and then particularly that they got caught by Daphne. That was great. Oh my god. But then the guy turned everything on before hits an alarm, and so everyone starts heading out of there, and they meet up, share info, and then we see that there's people coming. And so they hide in medieval clothes on the side of the ride. Daphne is a princess. Fred and Shaggy are knights. And Velma, I think, is supposed to be Merlin. Also, there just so happened to be a Scooby-Doo shaped knight costume, which I found hilarious.
Yeah, like if that was a normal costume, it would not fit him.
Yep. And then we see the guy who turned the stuff on gets in trouble because they found something called the Daemonitis, which we find out is the little pyramid-shaped thing that Daphne found. And the wrestler says, "It's time to summon the big muchachos," which I had to look up how to spell muchachos. Well, because of that, I found out that interestingly, it literally just means young men. So so big muchachos just as means that they want to summon the big young men,
Yep.
which I find just so really funny. So the people that walk away, and Shaggy accidentally farts in Velma's fire, causing a mini explosion. And then the Mystery Inc. runs out of the castle with smiles on their faces, and Shaggy can't seem to get his metal leg off. And they head to the hotel and run into the owner. Fred mispronounces his name, which is the exact reason why I just refer to him in this review as the owner, because I don't want to be like Fred and mispronounce his name.
He calls him Mr. Mononucleosis.
Yep. Oh man. So they show him the Daemonitis, and they say that they have three suspects: the creepy event host, the voodoo guy, and him. The owner responds, "Me? Bah, bah, bah." And Fred then says, "Let's split up." And Fred says that he's gonna interview employees. Velma is gonna try to read the Daemonitis, and Daphne is gonna research cults on the net. And as Daphne and Velma leave, the owner again asks, "I'm a suspect?" And Fred says, Don't take it personally. It's just because you creep me out." And the owner is not very happy by the fact that he creeps him out, which I find funny because the owner should be happy by this, since earlier he wanted them to believe that he's creepy.
Yeah,
That he can
it's
be
spooky
creepy.
island, so he's supposed to be creepy and spooky.
But he doesn't like it when they actually think he's creepy. So we then see a creepy event host look down at Velma, who's trying to work on the Daemonitis. And then the creepy event host sits down and does his job, which is playing the piano for the evening. Then we see Velma with the at a history is talking history back when Velma was at that history lesson show. There was a guy standing next to her, which that same guy just sat next to her in the bar as she works on the Daemonitis. Did either of you notice that this is the same person and who was by her during that performance?
Yes, because he flirts with her.
Oh yeah,
because he
likes
has
him
a
some
Led
Velma.
Zeppelin shirt. Shout out Led Zeppelin.
okay. So, he asks about what she's doing, and she tells him, and then the bartender gives them drinks, on the house because Velma has a nice sweater, which I found to be really weird. Like, I can't imagine a bartender doing that in real life.
Well, I think that was the bad guys being like, "Oh, give her a drink, load it with some alcohol so that she is not thinking straight."
Okay.
Or even another way, is that it was the bad guys trying to get her drink loaded with alcohol, but the bartender didn't say nice sweater. He said nice something else.
R-rated version.
Yep.
So that definitely could be. The guy asked if she really likes clues, and she says, "Yeah." And then she goes into this story flashback. She narrates about all the rest of the team and how good they are. And the guy says, "That sounds perfect." And Velma says, "Yeah, but every family has one nut." And so we then see a Scrappy-Doo in the car with them. Scrappy says, "Ghosts don't stand a chance with me. Let me at them. I'll rock them. I'll sock them." And then Fred tells Scrappy, "For the last time, there's no such thing as ghost." Scrappy says, "Sure there are. And when I find them, I'll give them a dose of puppy power. Da da da." And as he says this, Scrappy starts peeing on Daphne, and so Fred slams on the brakes and tells Scrappy, "I told you no urinating on Daphne." And Scrappy says, "It was an accident." Fred says, "No, you were marking your territory." And then right here we have the other word that I'm surprised they were allowed to use in this. Scrappy says, "You don't have the scrote for this job."
That is not the word I thought we were gonna say.
He does say that. Oh my gosh. Yep. Wow.
Yeah. It's surprising hearing that in a PG film.
It's very surprising. But I guess as a kid, you don't notice it.
But also, though, I don't think, though I have heard scrotum, I don't think I've ever, outside of this film, I don't think I've ever heard the shortened form of scrot.
I've totally heard it.
I don't think I've ever heard that.
Well, certain people say it.
Oh, that's that just surprises the hell out of me. If Warner Brothers wanted them to make this PG, they allowed them to keep a joke like that. But so that and Scrappy says, "Pally, listen up, losers. The time has come that you appoint me your unquestioned leader. Either that or I'm out of here." Yeah, I love the smile that Scooby gets when when Scrappy suggests this. It's like even Scooby, who is Scrappy's uncle, hates him. I just thought that was hilarious. So Scrappy gets thrown out and the van drives away. And Scrappy says, "You can't do this to me. People adore me." And he kicks his little suitcase and it says, "Ouch. I'm as cute as a Powerpuff Girl. I'll get my own TV show."
I loved that.
Oh yeah. It's so good. I did not remember when I was a kid there being a Powerpuff Girls reference in the film.
I didn't remember it either.
Yeah. Y'all also hate this little fucker.
Yes, he's so obnoxious.
I actually don't. I never found him that annoying. I do find it hilarious though how he thinks that people adore him though, since most people actually hate him, like you two do.
Yep.
So
It adds
like-
to him being more obnoxious.
hashtag Smash
Wait.
Trivia Scrappy sympathizer.
Yeah, like, I honestly, like, I don't necessarily really like the character, but like I never really hated him. I just thought like, oh, okay, he's there. Like, I don't mind. I'm not gonna not watch a Scooby-Doo thing if he's in it.
He's there and he's a little dickhead.
He is
Yeah,
a little shit.
definitely. So, but also though, he actually was right. Ghosts are real in this world. And so that was I found that really interesting. But then after the flashback, Velma is laughing, and the guy with her says, "Puppy power, huh?" And Velma says, "And he wasn't even a puppy. He had a gland disorder," which was hilarious. We see a Scooby by a window clapping at a performance, and then Scooby turns his head to see that there's a monster in the window. He runs, freaking out and hiding under a table. And we see real quick here a shot of the owner scratching himself like a dog, foreshadowing the twist. Then we see Fred goes over to Scooby and scolds him for being scared, which, what the fuck, Fred? That you don't do that to a dog when they're scared.
Yeah, he's still just a dog. Like, I understand
Yeah.
he can talk to you, but he's still just a
So-
dog.
That is
Well, it's
so
better than
rude.
flicking him on the nose.
I know. I didn't like when he flicked him on the
Yeah.
nose.
Yeah, they're both pretty bad though. Yeah, you don't treat a dog like that. So, but Fred tells him that this is the most embarrassing thing you've done since you cleaned your beans at Don Knotts' Christmas party. Which Scooby thinks that this is pretty funny. As we see him smiling, like after Fred says this, which I have to agree, that is pretty funny.
The way that Fred worded it was funny.
Yeah.
And then the way Scooby looks at the camera was funny
Yeah,
too.
he's just like, yeah, I did that. Oh man. So Fred says there's no such thing as ghouls, ghosts, goblins, or monsters. And then Fred gets on top of the table that Scooby is hiding under and tells everyone the same thing. And at this moment, a monster breaks through the window. And so Fred yells, "Monster!" Which I thought was pretty funny that happened right after he was telling everyone how there was no such thing. So the monster grabs Fred and breathes on him. And Fred, as he falls asleep, says, "Scoob, save Daphne." But everyone runs like crazy. We see a Velma on the ground, missing her glasses, and a actually pretty helpful monster gives her them. And she thanks the monster, but then says, "Nice mask, bad breath," and laughs at it. And it grabs her, which I honestly don't fault the monster for, because that was rude as hell. This monster helped. This monster just helped you find your glasses, and you act like that towards it. And then she continues being rude by pulling its ears. Yeah, in that one situation, the monster was not in the wrong, I don't think.
He was still trying to kidnap her.
Yeah.
And she was intoxicated, so that's why she found it so funny too.
Yeah. So Velma says jinkies and then gets put to sleep by its breath. Shaggy and Mary hide behind the bar, and the monster also grabs as Velma's friend. And then we see Daphne runs upstairs, grabs the Damon Rightus as the creepy event host also tries to grab it, and she sticks her tongue out at him, which I thought was pretty funny. So Daphne stands in front of the owner saying, "I'll protect you," as a monster grabs him through the floor. And then we see the creepy event host sneaks out. And Shaggy, Mary, and Daphne all run together. And we then see a Scooby hilariously walking in a suitcase to hide. But sadly, a monster sees this. And let's see. The monster grabs it from on top of Scooby. And so Scooby then turns around, puts his hand up, grabs the monster's hand, and gives him a manicure. Which at first the monster likes this, but then Scooby starts biting on the ends of his fingers. So now he no longer has claws, which annoys the monster. And so then Scooby runs, but stops for a sandwich, and then keeps running. Shaggy and the girls ask, "Where's Scooby?" And at that very moment, Scooby grabs them with a luggage cart. And Scooby shouts, "Ruby, Ruby, Roo!" As Scooby runs the cart. He taunts the two monsters behind them by sticking his tongue out. And I just love how you can see the monsters. They're just taken aback by this. They're like, "What? Wait, what?" They're so surprised by him doing that.
This whole scene was one of those times where it was like nostalgia, because it was literally like the cartoon come to life.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. There's so much nostalgia I get from watching this film. Yeah. And Scooby sends them flying through a window, and Scooby stays floating in the air for a bit, which is so classic. I love it. They all bounce off of a fabric awning, but the monsters, when they try to follow them, are not so lucky. They fall straight through, hitting the concrete. And one of them kicks the other in the head for telling him to jump out the window, which I laughed a lot at seeing that. And then we see the monsters drag bodies over to a cave. One of the monsters slaps another. And then we see Scooby, Shaggy, and the girls come out from some giant vases. Shaggy makes a comment about not thinking these are just brainwashed cult members. And Daphne says, "What are they then?" and then what do they do? What do they want with the students? We need to follow them. And Shaggy gives her a confused look. He asks, "Say what?" I didn't. Daphne says, "So we can defeat the creatures and save Fred and Velma." And Shaggy says, "Well, that's sort of like my plan, which is to get the heck out of here and let the creatures eat Fred and Velma." Sounds like a good plan to me.
Yep. I love how out of like the Mystery Inc. gang that were captured, I love how Daphne was the last to be captured.
Yeah, definitely. And let's see. Daphne says, "No way. We get to figure this out for the first time. They're the damsels in distress, not me." And then her face falls over, which I thought was pretty funny. Mary Jane then calls the Coast Guard, saying that her friends were kidnapped. And the Coast Guard says that they can have someone come help. And after getting off the phone, the Coast Guard laugh about it, and they don't send anyone. So,
what the fuck was this about?
Yeah, do you think that the Coast Guard? Do you think that they were a part of this, or do you think that they just thought it was some prank call?
I think they are the monsters wearing the human skin.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, but they weren't talking the way that they do.
What do you mean?
Like, you know how like the next day everything seems to be back to normal, but all the monsters in human skins like taking over the island, they're all like talking like, oh, weird.
Well, I'm
you know,
sure.
like,
Yeah, I'm sure that those ones were like monsters that were there for a while. They're like high up monsters. They're like the security, because I'm sure they come out at night because they can't be in the sun, take all these students, and there's some students that don't get taken. So I'm sure they've gotten a lot of calls about their friends missing.
That makes sense.
So they were like, "Oh, we need to put a security," pretty much.
That makes sense.
They never did explain it though.
Yeah, they didn't. I like
some weird
I was like
laughing.
very much. It's like I was not sure which it was, because I thought it could easily go either way. That it is they are in on this. They're some of the monsters, or it could easily be that they just think that this is just some as a joke from some dumb college students.
Yeah, I think the reason I think they're the monsters was because of the laugh. It wasn't like we got another prank call. It was like an evil maniacal laugh that they did.
And then they just stop.
Yeah. So
oh yeah. So then the four of them and we see them wake up on the beach and find that that weirdly everything seems fixed. And so Daphne tells them to follow her. And we see Sugar Ray singing at the pool. Which again, just like with the Pamela Anderson cameo, it's this definitely doesn't really age well, because Sugar Ray is not that popular anymore.
I honestly have no idea who they are.
I honestly don't really know either. I've heard of them before, but that's all. But I don't really know them.
Yeah, this is weird. Again, just like the Pamela Anderson thing.
Oh yeah. So, Daphne tells them that we need to split up to find them, and Mary Jane promptly says, "I'll go this way," and she leaves. Which definitely is alluding to the fact that she's one of the monsters. So Shaggy tries to say that they would go with Daphne, but she says no. So they end up going the other direction, and then we see a Sugar Ray gets all up in Daphne's face, and we see that he's a creature because he has glowing green eyes, and we see Scooby sniffing around, and he says red, and the camera pans up to see where we see that Fred is now one of the creatures. And Fred says biatch, which is basically bitch, but so which
The subtitles
I'm so
say bitch.
surprised that they let that stay in. Oh
Yep.
my god. I honestly didn't know that the MPAA would allow that to be a PG film.
Maybe it was
Well,
because he said biatch and not just
guess.
bitch.
The
I guess
subtitles
that's
said
like a-
bitch.
I don't know.
I think the rules are is you can say a certain number of bad words, or you can say like certain bad words before it changes the rating.
But I didn't think that you could say really any bad words if it's PG, other than like maybe one ass.
Well, I mean, Shrek does it a couple times, right?
I don't remember. Honestly.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah. So Shaggy calls out to Fred, and who Fred then says as what up, dog, and dog, and then Scooby hilariously says keep it real, and Scooby crosses his arms to look cool. Which I loved that so much.
I loved it too. I loved it.
Oh my god, yeah. So that Shaggy asks, "What happened last night?" And Fred as we got beats like it was the whiz niz on Earth. You know what I'm saying? And Shaggy nods his head and says, "No, I don't." Oh, Shaggy hears a noise, and then we see a Fred tries to breathe on them, but it doesn't work on them. Oh, Shaggy and Scoob freak out and run. And so Fred tells the other creatures to get the dog. And we see the wrestler grab Daphne and take the Damonitis. And he makes a weird comment about her dress. Did you catch that? That's the comment they said.
What was it?
I don't remember exactly what it was. It was it was a really weird one. Like
I don't remember it either.
Yeah. Whatever. Scooby and Shaggy then hide in a giant shed, and Scooby asks, "Why is Fred in a bad mood?" And Shaggy says, "He's not, Scoob. He's a monster." And Scooby says, "Raggy rides," and he pulls a sheet off of some four-wheelers. And so they come flying out of the shed on the four-wheelers. And it's honestly so epic seeing Scooby with his paws in the air riding these. What did you guys think of seeing them riding those?
I loved it.
Oh, it's so good.
It was also super cartoony. How there was no ramp or anything, but they still just came flying out of the door.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good. So, we then see Mary Jane walks out of the forest, causing them to stop. She says that she saw her friend. Something's wrong. They have green eyes. And Shaggy tells her to hop on. And the people creatures follow them, and one of them grabbing onto the four-wheeler's tail, which I find it so funny how they these four-wheelers for some reason have tails on them.
Another Indiana Jones reference right there when the guy's hanging onto the tail, just getting drug along.
Okay. So we see Scooby has his tongue out while driving, which I thought that was pretty funny. Then Scooby looks over at Mary Jane as she hits her head on a branch, which reveals her evil face. And Scooby freaks out, but she fixes her face so that Shaggy doesn't see. And then they stop at the entrance to the cave that we saw the night before. And Shaggy and Mary are hugging, but Scooby steps in. Scooby starts barking at Mary Jane. He tells Shaggy that Mary Jane is a man in a mask. But Shaggy doesn't believe him. Scooby starts keeps barking, but Shaggy gets in between them. And so Scooby tells him that he's whipped. And Shaggy says, "I'm whipped? Oh yeah. Why don't you say that to my face?" And so Scooby gets mad at him, saying, "Your mom eats cat poop." Which I guess, even though I didn't really hear exactly what he said, but I'm just guessing based on on Shaggy's response.
Yeah, that's what he says. And yeah. I loved it. It was absolutely hilarious.
Oh, yeah. So good. Yeah. I love that they it actually did come to a head. The head of Shaggy not taking Scooby seriously and believing him to them now fighting. I love that it actually came to a head like that. So Shaggy says, "No, your mom does," and Scooby he puts up fist as they dance around, and Shaggy asks if he wants to feel some of the shagster. And right as they are about to actually hit each other, the floor opens and Scooby falls. Which Shaggy freaks out, saying that Scooby's been eaten. I gotta save him. And he said, "As you stay, I'll be right back." And Mary Jane, in a demon voice, says, "No, Shaggy." And Shaggy turns around to look at her, and she's in a normal voice then says, "I mean, it's too dangerous." And Shaggy says, "I got to. He's like my best pal." And the friends don't quit, which that is a callback to what he told Scooby at the beginning of the film when the others quit, which I really liked that.
Oh yeah, that's actually really sweet.
Yeah, I like until this viewing, I'd never caught that before. Shaggy puts his hands together and dives in. Shaggy lands in a cave, but Scooby is nowhere to be found. But this is the chamber where the ritual will take place. And we see a Shaggy run in a weird motion up to this giant goblet or vat filled with souls. And he hears Velma's voice in the goblet, and he sees her soul head. And Shaggy says, I'll save you, as he puts his hand in to grab her head. And so he sends her off to go get her body. And we see that when she gets to her body, the creature is not wearing her signature sweater anymore. The creature is that in her body is wearing a shirt with a massive amount more cleavage.
Oh,
Yup.
yeah.
Yup.
Very deep V going
Yup.
with that shirt.
And which I wrote. I honestly don't blame the creature for this, because this who in their right mind would wear a sweater on a tropical island that's probably very hot in temperature?
Yeah, it's like a really thick sweater too.
Oh yeah, it's like, seriously, why are you wearing that? Oh my god. But is another thing that you just have to accept because of the ridiculous of the film. So we as Velma gets back in her body, the creature is pushed out and explodes from the sunlight. And we see Shaggy grab Fred's head, who says, "Listen, man, somebody must have spiked my root beer last night. Talk me down, man. Talk me down." And Shaggy says, "Fred, you're a freaking protoplasmic head." And Fred, in a sad voice, says, "I know." But then in a more confident voice, "Well, I am the best looking protoplasmic head here, I mean." And so Shaggy hilariously just slaps his head to send him to find his body. But as Fred is about to get back to his body, the creature, Fred, closes the door, sending the head flying somewhere else. And so then and Shaggy grabs another head, but it's this random person. And they say, "Thank you so much for saving me." But Shaggy says, "Sorry, I'm looking for my friends." And he puts the head back into the goblet, which, holy fuck, that's hilarious.
That was
Just
really
leaving.
funny.
Just like, I'm not saving you.
Why didn't he just let it go?
I don't know.
Probably because he's supposed to be a stoner, and everybody says that you lose brain cells smoking pot, even though I don't think that's entirely true. So that's probably why he was like, didn't even think about it.
Honestly, this was not Velma's friend, but honestly, I wish that they had that this were the Velma's friend that had been flirting with her, or who that would have made it even more funny if it had been this person we actually do know. But Shaggy's like, Velma may know you, but I don't, so I don't care about you. That would have made it even more or hilarious. So let's see, he then grabs Daphne's head, who tells him, "Put me back, Shaggy. I'll find my own way out." And Shaggy asks, "But like, how?" And she says, "I don't know. I'll use my tongue as an oar and swim to the edge." And so Shaggy says, "Sorry," and just sends her to go find her body. I found that pretty funny that Daphne is so insistent on saving herself that she won't even let him and send her back to her body. So we then see that Velma sees a head flying in the distance, and so Velma goes into the building and gets the attention of creature Daphne. She pushes her into a room so the head can find the body. And as the creature is pulled out of the body, Velma opens the blinds to explode it. And Velma says the creatures must need our bodies to survive in sunlight. And she asks, Daphne, are you okay? Fred, who is now in Daphne's body, answers, yeah, but I'm not Daphne. And we then see a Daphne's head go into Fred's body as he says, ew. Back to Fred in Daphne's body. He says, I couldn't get to my body. I didn't know where to go. I panicked. It's not easy to steer when you're a pure spirit. And Fred looks down and says, hey, I can look at myself naked. Oh, God.
I love that that's his first thought.
Yep. I mean, it's not surprising.
I mean, if I was Daphne going into Fred, I would probably be like, oh shit. Let me see what's packing down there.
Oh my
God. I do the same shit, so I can't talk.
I mean, we probably all would.
All right, everybody, we'll figure this problem out tomorrow. Today we have other things to do.
So, Velma then walks away again and disgusted, saying, "Oh, brother." And Fred looks down on Daphne's shirt, smiles, and then follows her. The three of them meet up. Daphne tells Fred, "Get your hands off me." And he planned this somehow, didn't he? And Fred walks around Daphne, admiring his own body.
I loved that. I love how
yeah,
conceited Fred is. It's
he's
funny.
He's attracted to the fact that he's in Daphne's body, but he's still more attracted to his body.
Yeah.
And let's see, a Shaggy that arrives holding the Damon Rightist, and he asked, "Please tell me you guys are you." And Daphne says as angrily, "Fred keeps touching me," which I thought was very funny. Velma says, "Makes you nostalgic for the homicidal creatures, doesn't it?" And Shaggy puts down the Damon Rightist, and then they all change bodies again. Daphne's herself again, but Velma's now out in Fred's body. Shaggy has Velma's body. He doesn't like that she's wearing a dress, but he goes down to look at her at his no-no regions, which I found very funny. Which this leaves Fred in Shaggy's body, which is also hilarious. And he asks, "What's going on?" And Velma says that they will keep changing bodies till they change again. And then Velma, now in Shaggy's body, says, "Till the protoplasm realigns with the proper bodies." And now Daphne is Fred again. Shaggy is now in Daphne's body, and he says that he feels awful because she doesn't eat much, which I thought that was pretty funny, and definitely seems like what Shaggy would probably say in Daphne's body.
And it's so funny because he's like, "Oh, Daphne, don't you ever eat anything, man?"
Yeah.
And Sarah Michelle's Gellar's acting as
Oh yeah.
Shaggy being Daphne was perfect.
Yeah, so good. Then they change again, and they are now finally back to their own bodies. They see a fiery explosion in the distance and run after it. And Shaggy grabs the Damon-ritis. They find that it came from the voodoo dude who used the wrong ingredient in a warding ritual. As they see him, and Daphne says, "I know how to handle this guy." All right, and she walks up saying, "Hey, you! What are you doing?" As she walks up to him, and Velma sarcastically says, "Yes, that is masterful." And he says, "I'm doing a ritual to protect myself, if you don't mind. It's important to get the right ingredients. See, the only way I can protect myself is blessing this dead Arnoki beast." And he holds it up, which makes Daphne shake. And he says, "And I'll tell you, son, I think they're about to perform their evil dark apocalypse ritual." And Velma says that's what the ancient text describes. As she opens the Damon-ritis, and the voodoo guy freaks out, holding up his dead Arnuki. He's saying, "No, don't open that." And she reads that the leader needs to absorb a purely good soul to complete the ritual. And the voodoo guy says, "Legend has it that after the ritual is complete, the creatures will rule the earth for 10,000 years. And he says, that's why I'm taking this dead Arnoki into my house to protect myself." And Shaggy asks if he's giving out one of those, because obviously Shaggy wants to be able to be protected. So Daphne says the creatures are taking over the earth. That's so mean. And Fred says they can't do the ritual without a pure human soul. How are they gonna find that? And Velma says, "It didn't say human." And Shaggy says, "Oh boy." And the scene then transitions to Scooby in the pyramid cage, which opens up, and the team figures out that the owner is behind this. We then see him in the owner in his office as Scooby is brought to him, and when the owner notices, he excitedly says, "Scoobert, how are you, my friend? Sit down, please." Which I think this might be the first time in the film that someone actually calls Scooby by his legal name.
Do you think that was alluding to the fact that it's Scrappy? Because he knows?
Yeah,
I was just about to say that.
It definitely is. Probably it's and maybe within this universe, Scrappy doesn't call him Uncle Scooby. He calls him Uncle Scoobert.
Probably.
Yeah.
Just to be a dick.
They don't really reference in this the fact that he is Scooby's nephew. They never mention it in the film, which surprised me.
Yeah.
Let's see. Scooby says, "Okay," and he goes to sit in a chair. The owner offers him some Scooby snacks, and Scooby says, "Maybe one," and he eats the whole container of them. He then sees a picture of himself framed, and he says, "Ray, that's me." And the owner says, "That's because we love you, Scooby-Doo." unlike that alleged friend of yours, Shaggy. And this makes Scooby get really sad. Which did you notice that that picture of Scooby that is framed? That is a picture from while he was in that kitchen area.
I didn't notice that.
I didn't either.
Yeah, it's a bit. It's a small detail, but it makes sense, since I'm guessing most likely a Scrappy probably didn't have any pictures pictures of Scooby, so he had them take a picture while they were in the kitchen. So and the owner says he wouldn't believe you about that nasty girl Mary Jane, would he? And Scooby shakes his head in a defeated tone, says, "No." And the owner says, "I believe you, and that's why I have a very important job for you." This perks Scooby up, and he turns his eyes to a toy cat. And Scooby asks, "What's that?" And the owner hits him, saying, "That's a cat with a bobbing head. Don't touch it." I just wrote, "That's rude." You didn't have to hit Scooby for that. He says, "Scooby, I'd like you to be a sacrifice." And Scooby says excitedly, "A sacrifice?" And the owner nods. And then we see at the beach, Fred asked if this guy wanted Scooby, why'd he invite the rest of us? Which I feel like the reason why he invited the rest of them is because if he hadn't, Scooby would not have gone alone.
Yeah,
there's no way Scooby would have gone on alone to the island.
Or if only Scooby had went and the sacrifice worked, or was in, it was working out, the gang could have figured out who was behind it and solved it before they had a chance to finish it.
Okay.
That's why they wanted to change them into monsters.
Well, that doesn't really explain why he invited them to the island.
To turn them into monsters.
Okay, I guess. Let's see. Shaggy says it doesn't matter. We gotta save Scoob. And he starts walking off, and Fred says, "Shag, our area of expertise is nut jobs and Halloween costumes." And Shaggy says, "But we're supposed to be heroes, man. So I'm gonna do what I always do. I'm gonna eat myself a Scooby snack and save my best pal." Which I honestly really love Shaggy's bravery here. Like, this was it's one of the more serious scenes in the film, but I loved it.
Yeah, me too.
So that and Fred says, "Well, Velmster," and Velma says, "You think I'm gonna fall for that? Giving me my own nickname, trying to make me feel like I'm part of the gang." And then but then and like really quickly she this does work on her, and she says, "We could make a plan." And Daphne asks, "What could I do?" "The only thing I'm good at is getting caught." And Fred says, "You never let that stop you before. And if that's not a true hero, I don't know what is." And which, I mean, yeah, kind of, but also she shouldn't have to get herself caught every time.
Yeah.
Awesome. It is. They put their hands in the middle, and Velma says, "Let's get jinky with it," and they throw their hands in the air. And then we see a montage of them setting up a plan. And Fred says, we use the pulleys to tip over the vat, and Velma says, and then Daphne will open up the air vents from the outside and release the disco skull. Fred says the light will reflect off the skull. Then Shaggy says the creatures will explode. I'll find Scoob and we will have saved the world. And which I like this because it's this is the first time in the film where they actually did work fully together.
Yeah, it's nice. I like the whole them splitting up and finding themselves for a little bit, and then eventually coming back together.
Yes, definitely. So then, and Fred says, "Oh no, the ritual is beginning." Velma says, "Quick, Shaggy, attach this to the vat," as she throws some rope down to him. Shaggy runs over, starts tying it, but gets himself caught on the rope. And Fred says, "Mystery Inc. rides again," and him and Velma swing down from the rope. The rope, though, comes untied from the vat and just pulls old Shaggy up, which breaks the rock that's holding the rope, causing Daphne to get sent against a wall and Shaggy to swing into a guy that's walking into the cavern, and the two of them tumble to the ground in a hall. And then we see the room starts filling with people. Velma almost says, "Quick, hide the Damonitis," and dropping it into a bag to the side, and then Shaggy in the hall starts freaking out because he sees Scooby in another room being pampered. And then we see all the people in the room start dancing. So Fred and Velma just follow them to not cause attention. The owner and the creepy event host walk in, and Daphne crawls into a tunnel. Shaggy grabs the guy who he knocked out's clothes, and we then see he starts trying to dance to fit in as people are walking into the room. Then the guy he knocked out wakes up, and as he's dancing, he works hitting the guy into his dance, which I found it really hilarious. While he's dancing, he just kept sending his hand back to hit the guy again and again. Oh, that was great. So and let's see, everyone in the room turns to Fred and Velma. Fred doesn't notice and keeps dancing. Velma tries to get his attention, and he then tries to cover by telling everyone that they forgot the next part of the dance. It doesn't work, and the guards grab them. The owner says, "Welcome to my little end of the world party." And the guards then grab the Damonitis, and he says, "Thank you for returning the ultimate party favor. And now, behold, the sacrifice." And Scooby is brought out by guards wearing the same kind of stuff as Shaggy, so Shaggy's able to sneak in and be by Scooby's side. And we hear Scooby turning all around him saying, "Rank Roo, Rank Roo." Shaggy says, "Piss." Scooby turns to him saying, and "Raggy?" And Shaggy says, "Scoobert, hey." and we like gotta get out of here. And Scooby says, I'm a Rackra Rice. And I'm like, what do you think Scooby believes is a Rackra Rice? I have my theory on it, but I would like to hear what you guys think.
I don't know, really.
I don't either. I hadn't really thought about it.
So I honestly, and it saddens me to say this, but I kind of feel like he does actually know what it is, but he's so depressed that he's just willing to do it. He's willing to be a sacrifice, ice, because of how depressed he is because of how Shaggy has treated him. A part of me sadly feels like that might be the case.
Maybe.
So let's see. Shaggy says, a sacrifice. That's not a good thing, Scoob. I'm sorry I yelled at you. I am really sorry that I haven't been a very good friend since we got here. But listen to me, bro. You gotta trust me now. And Scooby says, you won't trust me. And Shaggy says, I do trust you, Scoob. Now look, who is your best buddy? Scooby thinks for a bit and says, Raggy. And Shaggy says, that's right. And who's my best buddy in the whole wide world? And Scooby says, Ruby-Doo? And Shaggy says, that's right, Scoob, you are. And Scooby's eyes water. Which, honestly, when I was watching, my eyes kind of watered a little bit too at that, because it was really beautiful.
Oh, yeah. As a kid, I definitely cried.
Yeah. So Shaggy says, we're like two peas in a far out pod, man. And Shaggy says, not Shaggy, Scooby says, rah. And Shaggy says, best buddies trust each other. So let's do what we do best. Let's run out of here screaming in fear like a couple of lunatics, okay? And Scooby excitedly says, okay. And Shaggy says, let's do it on the count of 5. 1, 2. And then at this moment, the Damon-ritis takes Scooby's soul out. And Scooby laughs while this happens to him, and he's now a floating head. He then screams, seeing his body. Which I expect I would probably scream too if my soul got pulled out of my body and I could see my body.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah, that'd be terrifying. He then says, "As look at me." And the owner attaches the Damon-ritis to himself. Scooby says, "Ruh-roh," as he notices that he's being held by this staff, or the staff crane thing. I guess it's called a pincer. And the souls from the vat spin in the air, and the owner says, "The moment is at hand. Through the Damon-ritis, I shall absorb the energy source." And then we see the souls start getting sucked into his chest. And he says, and now to complete the transformation, I shall absorb the pure one. And Scooby and Shaggy say each other's names, and then the owner says, "Ultimate power shall be mine." Shaggy says, "Nobody absorbs my pal," as he hits its guard holding him. runs up and grabs the crane, and he takes him crashing into the owner, closing the Daemonitis. And then we see Daphne crawling through the tunnel, and then and back to Shaggy hanging on the crane. This frees a Scooby, who shouts, "I'm free!" as he flies around, annoying the enemy. I love that so much. The Scooby distracts people, and while this happens, and Fred and Velma head to go grab the Daemonitis. The creepy event host tells Scooby to get off my pincer, and so Shaggy jumps down, and Scooby is able to finally enter back into his body, laughing like crazy, and he says, "Cowabunga!" And I loved how happy Scooby is here. Fred and Velma get over the owner's body and try to grab the Daemonitis, but it's too hot. Fred says, "Hey, look, Velms, a man in a mask," as he notices there's a tear in the owner's skin. He pulls it back to reveal a robot. Then the Daemonitis then disappears to inside, and then the chest cavity pops open to reveal our secret villain for the film, Scrappy-Doo, who immediately says, "Da da 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 da, puppy power! I've outsmarted." And he gets zapped by the suit, and Velma says, "Scrappy-Doo," and Scrappy responds, "Correction, the new and improved Scrappy, because I, Scrappy-Dappy-Doo, have absorbed enough power to rule the world with my all-powerful army." And while he says this, Scrappy is getting bigger and muscular. He says, "And I brought you here, puny, pathetic Mystery Inc., to witness my moment of triumph. Only thing I need to complete my transformation is," and then his voice it's really deep, saying, "Scooby-Doo." And Scooby starts shaking and asks, "Me? Don't you mean Melvin Doo?" And the camera pans over to Melvin Doo is standing next to him, which this was what I was talking about earlier when I said that we would get another appearance from Melvin Doo, which makes me love that earlier joke even more.
Yeah.
Melvin Doo?
Yeah.
Love that character.
Yeah.
Greatest cinematic character of all time.
Thinking back on it, and this may be why you like him, Matt, but I feel like he looks similar to you.
Oh my god, a little bit.
I
Just
don't
like
see
the
that at
tiniest
all.
bit. The tiniest bit.
Not
It's like
at
the
all.
facial structure.
Yeah. And maybe that's why you like him so much.
I don't see that.
Oh man. So Scrappy shouts, "Seize them!" And Shaggy says, "Let's get out of here, Scoob." But then guards get in their way, and Scrappy hits Fred and Velma across the room, saying, "Take that, pretty boy." But I feel like the R-rated version of this film probably would have showed Scrappy's downstairs area get bigger as a callback to the conversation they had in the Scrappy flashback where he told Fred that you don't have the scrote to lead. I feel like in the R-rated one, they probably would have had something like that happen.
Probably.
which would have been pretty funny. Uh, so we see Daphne finally get out from the tunnel, and she's behind the spooky island sign, and she tries to pull the lever to open the vents, but it won't budge. And then back in the cave, we see a Scooby and Shaggy, a running from Scrappy, who's throwing people out of the way the whole time and saying, "Scooby-Doo, where are you?" And then back up top, the wrestler comes up behind Daphne, and honestly, he really is kind of an idiot here. He alerts her that he's there by calling her Senorita. Like, he could have easily just snuck up on her and took her out.
Well, that's because he's a big macho man and he sees this dainty woman.
And
he's like,
he's an
oh, she
idiot.
got nothing on me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh my God. So Daphne uses her epic black belt training to beat up the wrestler, which I love this whole scene. I mean, as we keep flashing back to it with them fighting, it's a really cool scene.
I loved it too. All the like spins and kicks she does is awesome.
Definitely. So we see more of Scooby and Shaggy running now with the Scooby-Doo "Where Are You" theme song playing in the background, which I love that. Oh man, so it's made the scene so nostalgic. Velma tells Fred, "Ed, we got to tip over the protoplasm vat. Come on!" And Velma then starts running and immediately gets grabbed by two guards. Fred then picks up the pulley rope and fights with it. And he says, "Y'all need to step back because Fred's got his groove on." And back up top, the wrestler tries to slam into Daphne, but hits the concrete instead, hurting his arm. And then down in the cave, Scrappy he picks up Scooby and says this weird line of, "You look so much bigger on TV." I don't understand that line because because they've known each other, so he should know how big Scooby is. I don't know. I don't know what that was.
I don't really know either.
So Scooby grabs his nostrils and Scrappy tries to shake him off. Finally, Scooby gets down, but Scrappy sneezes all over him, and not surprisingly, Scooby is very disgusted by this, having snot all over him. The Shaggy is about to try and grab a crane again and Scooby shouts for him. So Shaggy turns around and jumps into the pit, and so Scooby follows him, as he would be crushed otherwise. And Fred and Daphne, Fred and Velma are still. Fred and Daphne are still fighting their foes in different places. Scooby and Shaggy hide in the pit since Scrappy is too big to get in. Scrappy says, "As come back here, you lazy beatnik," which upon looking that up, apparently that is very similar to calling someone a hippie.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah, it was like it was like something that what people were called if they were like a very vibrant person in like the 1930s or something.
Huh. I can see that.
Yeah, so like because that was a line that before this viewing and before I was working on this review, I'd never known what it meant before.
Yeah, I've always heard it, but I never knew like the actual definition of it.
Yeah. So then and Shaggy and Scoob run into Mary Jane down there, who immediately chokes them. And Shaggy says crud. And Scooby says road you row. And then Mary Jane tries to breathe on him, but again, it doesn't work, Eric, which I'm guessing this is another reference to them smoking okay weed, so that so they're impervious to smells.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Shaggy just says like, "Wow," and then Scrappy shouts, "Give me the dog!" And Mary Jane hands him Scooby, and Scooby in Scrappy's hand says, "Scrappy, down, sit, bad dog," and then and Scooby flicks Scrappy on the nose as a callback to Fred flicking him on the nose. Was at the beginning of the film, which I thought was pretty funny. Let's see. And Scrappy then screams at Scooby, and we see a bit more of Daphne's fight, and then Scrappy says, let's finish this puppy now." And Scooby says, "Retro, not again." And as Scrappy brings him over to the pincer, and Daphne then knocks the wrestler over the vent and asks, "Now who's the damsel in distress?" And the wrestler says, "Me?" And Daphne says as straight up, and Daphne does a jump and kick move, causing the wrestler to fall and break through the vent. And I honestly really love the female empowerment of this scene. It's so great.
I loved it too. And he falls and knocks the vat over that has all the souls and the disco thing that's supposed to bring all the light in. So essentially, Daphne was the reason this happened.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. He didn't do the disco skull, but Daphne went crawled down and pulled the disco skull out afterwards. So still, Daphne's the cause of it. Yeah,
I love that. I love that she was the one that saved everybody pretty much.
Yeah, so these souls all start getting released, including Mary Jane's, saving Shaggy from being choked. Daphne, as I said, gets the disco skull to loose to reflect the light, and the monsters explode. And Fred hits the creepy event host with the metal part of his rope. Scrappy yells, "Mystery Inc., this ain't over," while still holding Scooby up and jumping after Fred and Velma. "Not by a long shot. I'll rock you and I'll shock you and crush you like a bike." And then the pincer taps him on the shoulder and he turns around. Shaggy is now controlling it. And Shaggy says, "Like, dude?" And Scrappy says, "What?" And Shaggy says, "You're a bad puppy." And he sends the pincer into Scrappy's chest, taking the Damon Rightus off of him as Scrappy screams. Scrappy then drops Scooby as he returns to his regular size, and Scrappy tells Scooby, "Come on, I can still take you. Put him up, mangy mutt." And then Scooby looks straight at the camera, smiling as he slaps Scrappy against the wall, all with the back of his paw. And then and Scrappy says in a defeated tone, "Is that all you got?" And Scooby looks again at the audience, smiling, which I love that. Everyone cheers to have their souls back. And Fred runs up to Daphne and she says, "We did it." Fred says, "Yes, we did." And they kiss, but then Daphne gets mad, saying, "Fred, cut it out." And Shaggy hears a banging noise, and he finds a hatch and opens it, and inside is the real owner with massive amounts of hair on his head. And Shaggy asks, "Is that really you?" The owner says, "Yes. Oh, thank goodness. Thank you. Thank you." He shakes Shaggy's hand, and Velma's friend, and we see her picking her up, hugging her, and says, "Thank you." And she says, "You're fogging up my glasses." And she starts laughing and then punches him really hard, playfully, which I thought was really funny how hard they punched him.
Yeah, it kind of gave me like friend zone type vibes.
Yeah, probably. So then the actual owner says, "Over 2 years ago, that little pest turns up at a casting session for our evil elves. Next thing I know, I'm stuck in a hole and he's comboting about in a mechanical me. But look, thank you so much." And he hugs Shaggy, who's clearly very uncomfortable with this happening. We see a Scooby looking for Shaggy. He sees them, he's him, and excitedly says, "Raggy," as he runs up to him, and he jumps on Shaggy, licking the hell out of him. Scooby says, as "I love you, Raggy." And Shaggy says, "I love you too, Scoob. Yeah, get off me, buddy." And Mary Jane walks up and says, "Hey." And Shaggy says, "Hey." And she says, "Thanks, you saved my life." And Shaggy says, like, "No problem." And Scooby says, "Ruh-roh." And he covers his eyes, even though nothing actually happens between them. She sneezes and then turns to Scooby, saying, "Thank you, Scooby-Doo." And she grabs his face and touches his nose with hers. This makes Scooby really happy. The three of them hug, which is probably really awful for her allergies.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So we then see the police finally arrive as everyone goes outside. Reporters ask Fred how he solved the case. Fred says, "Yes, well, it all started when I was giving a speech on my new book, and then I really think that Velmster should take it from here." Velma is surprised by this, but everyone smiles at her, and Shaggy pushes her front and center. Velma says, "Through the combined intuitive powers of Mystery Inc., we've discovered that the real villain behind this mystery was Scrappy Cornelius Dew, who sadly was corrupted." Then we hear Shaggy or Scrappy yell from a cage, "Oh, get over it. So what? I got a little cranky." And Shaggy as, "Geez, Scraps, it's no reason to freak out like a jerk and try to take over and kill all humanity." And Scrappy says, I would have got away with it too if it hadn't been for you meddling sons of and the copter door shuts, so we don't hear the rest. But I expect that in the R-rated cut, we would have actually heard him say "bitches," because that was definitely what he was trying to say there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. In response to what Scrappy said, Daphne's mouth just drops open and stays like that for a while because she's so surprised at what he said. Then and the reporter asks, since they are back together, if they have any comment on the mud bog ghoul terrorizing London. Fred says, whatever the case, Mystery Inc. will be there. And then and all five of them put their hands in the middle on top of each other and throw them in the air. And then we see in the post-credit scene, Scooby and Shaggy finally get their all-you-can-eat food. And Shaggy bites into a hot pepper and has trouble with it. Scooby calls him a wimp. And so Shaggy says, if you think you can handle it, put your mouth out where your mouth is. And Scooby says, okay. He grabs a jar of hot peppers and puts them all in his mouth. So it's burning like crazy. And Shaggy asks if he's feeling okay. Scooby says, freaking out. He says, oh no. And he grabs a pitcher of water from the waiter and chugs it. Still not enough. So he decides to distract himself by hitting himself with a metal plate, creating a Scooby face print in the platter, which I really enjoyed. Shaggy pulls his tongue out and pours ketchup on it. This finally relieves the pain. Shaggy asks, how's that taste? And Scooby says, delicious. And Shaggy says, well then, let's get two more. And he grabs 2 jars of hot peppers, and they both chug the jars. And we cut to outside, where we hear them both screaming in pain. The end. So I honestly really love this film. I think it's a perfect adaptation. So hilarious and nostalgic. The casting is perfect. I love the look of everyone with the costumes and the CGI of Scooby. And I honestly don't think it ages that badly. And Scrappy is honestly the perfect villain for the film. You choose thoughts on the film as a whole?
I completely agree with you. I've always loved this movie. The casting is perfect. The CG is, of course, spotty in parts, but it's not terrible. It actually looks good.
20 years old. So it's not surprising.
And the costumes were great. Daphne wears these like lavender go-go boots, and I want them so bad. I would wear them in my day-to-day life 100%.
I hope you're able to get them at some point.
I also agree this movie is great. I do agree that the casting is great as well. I will say, when I was first watching it today, I forgot they made Fred's hair like kind of long in the beginning, and I was like, ooh, they shouldn't have done that. But then after the 2 years passed by, they changed it to a lot shorter, and I was like, okay. So I think the actors and actresses were great.
That they, at least in the beginning, that they had the longer hair, because it looks like his classic look.
I think the second hair that he has looks more like the classic one, in my opinion, but costumes are great too. Yeah. And this really was like the perfect live action Scooby-Doo.
It really was. It really was the cartoon put to screen, and I loved it. All
right. So I have some trivia from IMDb. So as I've mentioned numerous times here, this film was originally set to have a much darker tone, especially essentially poking fun at the older cartoons, and was set for a PG-13 rating. And Shaggy was set to be a stoner. Velma and Daphne had a side relationship, and there were many marijuana references. According to Sarah Michelle Gellar, after the cast had signed on, there was a change, and the film became more family friendly. However, by 2017, James Gunn confirmed that the original cut of the film got an R rating and had to use CGI to cover cleavage. And then the next thing, when Daphne attempts to rescue or recruit Shaggy and Scooby to inspect the castle with her, Shaggy objects, and everything that Shaggy describes occurred in the What a Night for a Night episode of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, which is the very first Scooby-Doo cartoon to have ever aired. All of the things that he mentioned happened in that episode. And then this is one of the few Scooby-Doo films to reveal the real names, real first names of Scooby and Shaggy as respectively of Scoobert and Norville Rogers. The Luna Ghost was originally intended to be the main antagonist in an early draft of the script. After filming was completed, Freddie Prinze Jr. had to shave his head because the bleach ruined his hair.
Oh
Apparently.
my God, no way.
Yep.
Oh, that sucks.
Definitely. So, screenwriter James Gunn revealed that in the original script, Velma was explicitly gay, though the studio decided to water it down to block any references to her sexuality. Some of them were ambiguous and were kept and shot, but ended up edited out of the final version of the film. A kiss between Daphne and Velma was just one of the things that was cut. And the next thing is that Jim Carrey, Mike Myers, and the director Kevin Smith were all at once attached to the film. And at the different points when Jim Carrey and Mike Myers were attached, they would have been the people playing Shaggy in the film, which, though I rather Matthew Lillard being in it, but I still feel like that would have been really interesting seeing either a Mike Myers or a Jim Carrey version of Shaggy.
Yeah, Matthew Lillard was definitely the perfect pick, but I think Jim Carrey could have probably done some great things with that character.
Definitely.
I don't know. I think I'd prefer Matthew Lillard. I don't even.
I definitely think that he's
I
better.
don't even want to think about Jim Carrey trying to play him. Like, that's just he kind of grew into that role where it's like this is Shaggy and nobody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because of that, he's played a Shaggy in most of the animated films ever since.
Deserves it.
Yep. So in real life, Freddie Prinze Jr., who plays Fred in the film, and Sarah Michelle Gellar, who plays Daphne in the film, are married and have 2 children together.
Knew that.
Yes, I love it. They're such a cute family.
Tim Curry, who is the actor who played Pennywise in the 90s version of the film, is apparently a longtime fan of Scooby-Doo and was offered a role in this film, but he turned it down because he found out that Scrappy would be in it, who he hated.
What?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Not surprised.
And then you have Matthew Lillard, as we've mentioned, and is in Scream, and Sarah Michelle Gellar was in Scream 2.
Yep.
Yes, she was also Buffy, the Vampire Slayer.
So, and I asked on social media for or ideas people had for some fun Scooby-Doo crossovers. So I'm going to share those here, and as well as give some of my own ideas. So the Internal Cauldron of Emotions podcast suggested the cast from Stranger Things, which I have not watched Stranger Things, but I think that probably would be a really interesting one.
Oh my God. Okay, so I just started binging Stranger Things. Never seen it before. I'm on season 3 right now. That would be a great cast for Scooby-Doo. That would be great.
That would be pretty cool. Seeing the mystery incorporated, navigate the upside down.
All right. So, and Whitney suggested Kim Possible, which I love that idea.
That's a good idea too. Yeah.
I'm surprised that hasn't been done already.
Yeah.
Well, that's mostly likely because it's Kim Possible is a Disney a thing, and Scooby-Doo is owned by Warner Brothers.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. Different companies.
So learn German through music podcast, as suggested the Rushkesh and Night Owl from Watchmen, and that they would want to have the comedian as the villain of it. I've never watched or read any of Watchmen. Matt, have you ever?
Yes, it's Rorschach. Say that again.
Rorschach, and Night Owl, and then have the comedian as the villain.
That would be pretty funny. Yeah, the comedian in the Watchmen is like, he's technically one of the superheroes, but he's like a really, really shitty person. So yeah, I think that would work out pretty well.
All right. And then Derek suggested Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, and Anna Kendrick, which would be great.
Why Anna Kendrick? What?
She is hilarious.
I mean, I'm not
kidding?
complaining.
I know,
I'd be fine with that.
I know that Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick are together in, I think it's A Simple Plan, and a few years ago. So that's, I'm
Simple
guessing.
Favor.
Simple Favor. That's what I'm guessing what that's referencing.
Anna Kendrick would make a great Daphne.
Would she? I was thinking Blake Lively is Daphne, and then Anna Kendrick is Velma.
Both of them could do good.
I wasn't really when I asked for the suggestion, I wasn't really thinking of them as castings for characters. I was more thinking of it as like crossovers with the characters.
That's what I thought you meant whenever I left my comment.
Yeah. But I'm saying if there was to be a reboot, Anna Kendrick would make a great Daphne.
Or what about, like, think of a character that each of those people has played. Pick a different character from different franchises and put them with Scooby-Doo. Definitely Deadpool. Definitely whatever Anna Kendrick's character from Pitch Perfect is. And then I'm not sure about Blake Lively. I haven't seen her.
I haven't really seen many of Blake Lively's films.
Same.
That's tough. I'm thinking maybe like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants or Serena Vanderwoodson from Gossip Girl.
I have not seen either of those.
Of course you haven't.
I feel like I've seen like once at least the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants when I was a kid, but I definitely never watched Gossip Girl.
Oh, such a good show. Oh, it's a total chick flick type show, but it's so good.
Okay. So Bobby suggested Detective Bennett Blanc, which is Daniel Craig's character from Knives Out.
Yes, Bobby.
That would
yes, Bobby.
Crossover.
Yeah.
and you cannot forget Ana de Armas's character.
I knew you
Marta
were going
Cabrera.
for that.
You got to throw her in there.
Marta is not going to probably ever come back to the Knives Out franchise.
What about Chris Evans, huh?
Oh, he could be the villain.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
So, and then we have Matt suggested Acid Daredevil, so that they can see what happens to the villain in court afterwards.
Yes, tell me that's not a cool idea.
That is a cool idea, yeah, to see that actual, because you never see like the court, what happens to the villain afterwards. That would be cool.
Did y'all watch the crossover with Batman, the animated one?
I've watched both, all of the crossovers with Batman.
Exactly.
I have not.
And then so I mean, they could do superheroes if it wasn't like Marvel, owned by Disney, owned by Warner Brothers, whatever.
Yeah,
I think that would be pretty cool.
Yep. So, my ideas I had, though I know it can't happen because of the Disney issue. But Hulk and She-Hulk, and Howard the Duck for obvious reasons. I think they would be really fun ones. But then some other suggestions I have. Ben 10. I honestly really think that Ben 10 could fit it really well into a Scooby-Doo film.
I can see that.
Which Matt has, I know, seen in Ben 10, so he can agree with me there. And I also want to see Nicolas Cage appear in one, because I think because there, I even have a plot idea for this. So this would be like, the gang is hired by Nick because someone has been attacking people in a Nicolas Cage age mask, and they can call it Scooby-Doo faces off against Nicolas Cage as a reference to Face Off.
And then at the end of the movie, when they take the Nicolas Cage mask off of the person, it's actually Nicolas Cage.
Oh, that would be great.
That would be amazing. And I feel like Nicolas Cage would be willing to do an animated Scooby-Doo film. I feel like he's someone who would be willing to do something like that.
I could see it. I could also see Brendan Fraser doing it. I don't know why, but.
And then my last suggestion is Sean and Gus from the TV show Psych. And that's because I'm a big fan of that TV show. Oh, and also because they are mystery solvers while being fake psychic detectives. So I think it could fit perfectly together. So
I have not seen that.
Oh, since Matt already suggested one on Twitter, but Annabelle, do you have any suggestions for a Scooby-Doo crossover?
Oh, I knew you were gonna ask me that question. I've been thinking about this ever since we started talking about it. It sounds funny, but like a Powerpuff Girls crossover, that would be pretty
What is
cool.
up with you and Powerpuff Girls lately?
I love the Powerpuff Girls. I'm thinking about going back and watching it again.
I could easily see that happening. I think it was last year they released a film where Scooby-Doo crossed over with Courage the Cowardly Dog, another Cartoon Network show. Yep. I haven't watched it yet, but I want to watch it. Yep. I honestly love the concept of Scooby-Doo crossing over with characters so much. I've watched so many Scooby-Doo crossovers as a kid.
You don't even have to worry about it like, oh, we have to have multiple universes. Oh, like, are they all in the same universe? Like, you don't have to worry about that. You can just do it.
I mean, you they don't really do a lot of referencing each other in the animated film, so they don't really have to worry about any problems like that.
Yep, they can just do it.
Yeah. It's like I still to this day love even all the Scooby-Doo animated films that they still put out in their direct to home video, because they're still great. Like one of my favorite ones in recent years is did either of you ever watch the Batman the Brave and the Bold series on Cartoon Network?
No.
It's basically like a really ridiculous version of a Batman series, and it came out in like 2010, and like 3 years ago or something, they did a Scooby-Doo crossover film with that, and it was great. Yeah. All right. So the answer to the trivia question from earlier was Looney Tunes Back in Action.
I totally forgot what the question was.
Matthew
The
Lillard
question
played
was,
himself.
yeah, he played himself.
Oh, okay.
So there's a scene in the film that is at this restaurant, and you see a Matthew Lillard is there and as himself, Elf, and Shaggy and Scooby are also sitting at the same table as him. They're animated versions of themselves, and Shaggy is getting mad at Matthew Lillard for how he portrayed him in the film.
Oh, that's great.
I don't remember that.
I've never actually watched the film, but I've watched this scene.
It's pretty
a great
good.
scene. I want to watch the film.
It's been a while since I've watched it though. I don't remember that part.
Before I end this off, is there any final things you guys would like to say?
I don't think so.
Follow us on Twitter at Variant Vendetta.
All right, follow them at Variant Vendetta.
And on all your podcast platforms.
Yep. And yeah,
Plug.
give them all the listens. So, thank you for listening. If you like this gamma analysis, please give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the film, so please let me know on Twitter. And if you'd like to listen to more from me, please subscribe. Many more gamma analyses from me coming, so keep on the lookout. This again is your host, Smash Jerry John, signing off.